He stuck it out for 100 years in this wild, never-ending world, picking up everything from magic tricks to sneaky assassin moves and even dark necromancy skills. He lost to the guy in charge of that world. Out of nowhere, he ends up stuck in a body that's cursed and way weaker than what he's used to. The big question now is if he can make his way back to the top, and what moves he'll have to pull off to get there. Today's story is about to answer that question, so let's see what really went down. In this world called Nobody Gets Older, and everyone's stuck battling monsters non-stop. After dying on the continent of, the hero woke up in this wild place called the Playground of the Gods. He ended up in this place with a bunch of other people who got pulled in just like him, totally clueless about why they were there, and now he had no choice but to team up with these random players. Stuck in a place where the battles never stop and nobody can really die, he just has to keep going no matter what. He's been through tons of fights. He ended up stuck for more than 100 years, barely hanging on, almost gone but never fully out. He was locked in on getting his freedom back, no matter what it took. He faced off against the one who built this messed up world just for fun, the god running the show in. Once he took out everyone else who was with him, he got ready, using his necromancy skill to make sure he was set. He figured if he could just hang on for a second longer, it'd all be over. He dropped a magic circle right on top of the last enemies. The magic circle blasted out some serious power and wiped out the last of them, no cap. Meanwhile, everyone else couldn't keep up and dropped out. He kept running by himself, trying to get as far away from as possible. All around him, he kept hearing voices calling out for him, using that ghost king name everyone knew him by. He just wanted out of all this pain. That moment made him sure that taking out the tyrant was the only shot he had at real freedom. From way up above, the god watched everything going on below. He said Sermon's name out loud. He remembered his old life as a noble from back when his family still had power. Everything crashed when his family lost everything and he got captured by the Phaeton family. They kept him locked up and put him through years of brutal torture. It all finally ended with his death, but somehow he ended up in after all that. He lost it and told him to shut up, not caring who else heard. The god showed up shining in gold right in front of him, clearly impressed that he managed to hit master rank in ghost, assassin, and necromancer classes, all in under 100 years. He stepped up to his rival and dropped the truth. He'd set him up in this endless fight, pulled all the strings, and now he was ready to finish him for good. The god straight up owned up to it, saying this guy was his favorite so far. He figured he'd stick around and keep gaming with him a bit more. Out of nowhere, the god launched a quick flash of light at him, catching him off guard. He took the hit and dropped straight to the ground. He stared him down with this creepy grin, and wanted to know if he had anything left to say before it was over. He got offered one wish, but he straight up turned it down without a second thought, making it clear he didn't want anything. The god let him know he was out of wishes. While Sans was torturing him, his memories suddenly came rushing back. He was a mess, cuts everywhere, blood pouring out, and the pain was unreal. Even with all that going on, everything about who he was just snapped right into place. Sans thought it was pretty funny messing with him, always bringing up how his clan acts like their skills just dropped down from the sky. Everyone was included except him, even though he just got stabbed and it hurt like crazy. Realized his life just wouldn't give up, even after he got hit with a curse and lost it all. He struggled to get any words out, barely managing to mumble as tears ran down his face. Just laughed at him, pretending he had no idea what was going on, basically telling him he should just kept his mouth shut. He was straight up bored because he couldn't get anything useful out of the Sermon lineage. Sans straight up told him not to mess things up that day, talking about their Phaeton. He was just letting everyone know he was marking 3 years since it all started. The Sermon family got completely wiped out. 3 whole years slipped by while he was stuck there, just wasting away. The Sermon family pretty much stood like a wall, always holding it down on the front lines, keeping monsters from getting through. Creatures keep popping out of the dark zone, always trying to take over. He was one of the top dogs from the 5 biggest families on the whole continent of. Everyone knew the Sermon family was the top dogs. No one else even came close to their reputation or strength. Everything fell apart fast for the family once the dad and older brothers just vanished. The Phaeton family saw their shot and went all in to take them down. He really wanted the power that came with having dragon blood, the kind of blessing everyone talked about in the old stories. With that, the owner basically unlocks crazy powers, like being a 7th circle mage by the time they're 10, or mastering the sword by 15. He didn't have that power like some of the others did. He ended up stuck with the curse from the Demon King. He couldn't pick up any sword skills or magic no matter how hard he tried. He couldn't stop thinking about how weak he was. If he hadn't been cursed and actually had some real power, there's no way Phaeton would wreck them like that. He never would gone through all the messed up stuff Sans did to him. Blood ran down his face while he tried everything he could to hold it together. That day, he really thought it was over for him. He thought he could finally chill and just relax. Back in the present, after losing his fight against the god of, he starts thinking about everything he's been through in this world. All those tough moments come flooding back. After the god said he'd make his wish come true, he snaps awake to someone calling him young master, totally confused and sweating, his face showing he's not ready for whatever's going on. He spotted his maid Colin and was thrown off because she looked way younger than he remembered. He couldn't figure out what she was doing there, while Colin, on the other hand, was clearly stressing about him pushing himself too hard and not taking care of his health. He couldn't figure out why the Sermon family's nanny was right in front of him, looking way younger than he remembered. He hurried and awkwardly asked her to grab him a mirror, clearly on edge. He glanced in the mirror and saw himself as a little kid staring back. He wanted to know what day it was, so he checked with Colin, and she told him it was August 17, 1892, at least on the calendar. He suddenly noticed the date and it hit him. He was 12 years old again. This time stuck out in his memory because it lined up with when everything started going downhill for his family. He thought back to when the Sermon family started losing everything because of the Phaeton family. At the same time, the words from the gods about making wishes real popped back into his head. He was still trying to figure out if he'd actually gone back in time when he suddenly caught footsteps heading his way. A tall, impressive guy walked in, already thinking the kid was probably just pretending to be sick to get out of work again. He spotted right away the guy in charge of the Sermon Knights, looked over and saw the kid looking pale like he'd just seen something wild. He let him slide on training today. Colin wanted to jump in and help, but he held the commander back, nerves kicking in. He just grinned, showing everyone he was totally good. He wanted to know what was on the schedule for today's training. Didn't expect him to skip taking a break. He realized the guy was dead set on practicing footwork and wasn't about to slow down. The commander gave him a long, suspicious look, trying to figure out if this was actually the young master everyone talked about. He knew for sure now this was definitely Sermon. He figured it didn't really matter anymore why he came back, whether it was because of some wish or trying to rewind time. He caught everyone off guard when he straight up asked to skip basic training and just dive into monster hunting, all while this blue glow started showing up around him. He knew this was his shot to set things right. He pulled up his status window and saw he was still level 1, stuck with the curse, ranked SS, which meant he couldn't collect any mana at all. He was honestly pretty relieved to find out his special power still worked, even after getting thrown back in time. No one else around had anything like it, so knowing he still had it was a huge weight off his shoulders. Showed up again, letting him know the monster was ready for their fight. He showed up at the training ground and right away a goblin popped out, going wild and yelling at him. The monster went after him, but it was stuck, tied down to a wooden post. Colin totally lost it, yelling for the knight commander to end the fight. He tried to remind everyone how the young master always passed out just from seeing a goblin. Yesterday her words would made sense for him, but right now they just didn't hit the same. He could see right then that things weren't the same. Suddenly, alarms started going off in his head. The system had triggered the curse, and now his fear of monsters got cranked up way higher than before. He suddenly got it. This random fear messing with his head was just the demon curse doing its thing. Could tell he was tense, so he just said they should wrap up training for the day. He shut that idea down right away, wasn't about to quit, and sprinted straight at the tied-up goblin. He froze up real quick, trying not to lose it. Deep down, he kept telling himself he wasn't that same weak dude anymore. He realized his opponent was just a single goblin. He got serious, making sure he was ready to handle whatever came next. Nothing he'd faced before even came close to the nightmare he went through with that divine being. At first, this curse just seemed like no big deal, barely worth thinking about. He charged forward and swung his wooden sword hard. While the commander just stood there, pretty stunned, Nanny Collins couldn't believe what she was seeing either. Right then, a system pop-up showed up letting him know the curse had dropped a rank, because he just powered through it in a way nobody expected. His fear just disappeared like it never existed. He faced the commander, looking sure of himself, and asked if he could get an actual sword. Colin wanted to show she was worried, but the commander just gave the sword to the boy anyway. His face lit up with a big, confident grin. The knight commander looked at the way the young master stood and realized he wasn't a kid anymore. He had leveled up for real. He stepped up to the goblin, totally locked in and ready to go. He moved in to end it, landing one solid hit that put the shaky monster down for good. The commander noticed something different about him, like he might actually be the answer the Sermon family needed. So he signaled for Colin to check out what was happening. Everyone could see now, this boy was definitely the real heir and the one set to run the family next. Once the fight was over, he went to the sink and started washing his face. He realized the status window and the system's help actually came through, making it possible for him to beat the curse. That was all the proof he needed. He realized he could actually level up his power. He saw his XP bar go up. He looked at how little he got and was straight up annoyed, realizing that if things kept going like this, he'd have to grind through thousands of monsters just to level up. He knew he had to move fast, since it wouldn't be long before the sermon house turned into chaos. Even with everything going on, he still believed he could break curse. He wasn't about to let this chance slip, no matter what it took. He looked at where the sermon family was at now, remembering it had already been 2 years since his dad and big brothers just vanished. Even though things were kind of sketchy, the family was still holding it down as one of the top houses, since nobody had made any moves against them yet. After seeing for himself that fighting really did help him level up, he couldn't help but crack a confident smile. He decided to check out the second option for himself, so he went straight over to find the woman with the red hair and the blue mask. She started talking to him first, saying she'd already heard about him taking down the goblin. He couldn't help but question if he'd called her over just so she could practice magic again, and he wasn't exactly hyped about that idea. Stood there, she runs the magic core for the Sermon family and is a 7th Circle Grand Mage. Her power, easily on the same level as S. She's always kept to herself, and only the family head really knows what she's about. When he started acting all cocky after taking down an easy monster, she called him out and told him to chill. Let him know that training magic isn't like learning sword skills, and thanks to his curse, he couldn't pick up mana or do well in studies no matter how hard he tried. He owned up to it, knowing all along, and honestly his body just couldn't pick up on any energy at all. He caught her off guard, letting her know that he'd only been like this up until yesterday. Then he basically threw down a challenge, wondering if she actually thought he couldn't sense mana. She looked straight up surprised, like something just caught her off guard. She wanted to see if he was telling the truth, so she set up some magic symbols and let him look around. She let him know she'd sketched something you could only spot if you had mana. He kept his eyes locked on what was in front of him, concentrating hard, while she waited for him to figure out what she'd just sketched. He just said straight up that he saw a beautiful red dragon, and was so stunned she couldn't even say anything. She hesitated for a second, then nodded, making it clear he was right. She didn't want him thinking he got it wrong. She was honestly stunned, thinking about how he pulled this off. She'd set up all these tricks to hide what the drawing really was, but he still figured it out. That meant his mana skills had to be right up there with hers. She wanted to know how he managed to break the family curse, since before she'd only shown him how to pick up on it. He said her name and admitted he could kinda sense mana, but for some reason he couldn't actually use the family's cultivation method. He asked if she could help him out with it. Broke it down, saying you basically have to stick with if you want to level up, and he even brought up how he tried it before. She let him know how risky his request was. Using mana like that would basically wreck the energy paths in his body, so his life was pretty much in her control. He just smirked, not taking her warning seriously at all. He joked about whether she was actually planning to take him out, kind of flexing that he couldn't really stop her even if he tried. He realized she was the one person he could really count on for this. He thought back to his old life and remembered when they got attacked. Kept pushing herself to guard him, even though she was totally drained and her body was basically falling apart. She stuck by him and had his back the whole way, always looking out for him as his right hand. He snapped back to reality, checking her out with eyes that showed he was locked in and knew exactly what he wanted. He let her know that out of everyone, she was the one he counted on the most. He pulled off his shirt, getting ready for her to kick things off. Couldn't believe how fast he was picking things up. She'd just gone over the basics of the Blue Earth technique, but he was already channeling mana like he'd been doing it for years. That move was supposed to be something only family members could pull off, passed down through the main bloodline. He figured he was locked in like this because of all the times he'd trained with that method back in. That's where he leveled up and got his skills sharp. Told him to lock in and give it his full attention. He got a heads up that it was about to hurt a lot and knew he had to stay still and keep quiet, no matter what. Made it clear that if the pain ever got way too much, he should just stop right there and not push through it. The second the pain hit, it instantly took him back to all those times Sans tortured him before. It was like his body remembered everything, right down to how bad it hurt. He called her out, wondering if she was actually doubting him. Nodded, knowing exactly what he was after, and started channeling even more mana into him. Out of nowhere, alarms started blaring as the system kicked in, letting everyone know the curse just got triggered. The mana stuck inside his body broke loose and spread everywhere. Could tell the curse was doing exactly what her family said it would, but honestly she already saw this coming. Pushed more mana through himself, amping up his energy. A fight kicked off between the curse, working hard to break up the energy, and Zmana pushing back and trying to take control. All the while, system notifications kept popping up just for him, like his own private feed. He could tell the curse had already won, was hurting bad, blood everywhere, and it hit him that not even the crazy strong magic from a 7th circle grand mage could handle this top-level curse. He locked in and tried out's training move, set on making the curse loop back and get stuck inside him instead of blowing out everywhere. He managed to outsmart the curse and held all that mana inside, while his whole body started glowing with power. Was honestly surprised when she realized the mana just stuck around her young master and didn't bounce off like she expected. Right after that, the system popped up with messages showing he was actually immune to the curse. The resistance kept going strong and didn't let up. He noticed a sharp heat tearing through where his mana flowed, making every spot ache like it was on fire. He wasn't about to let the pain win. He powered through, knowing he'd already pushed through stuff like this 1,000 times back when he ruled the game in. He was sure no one got mana like he did. He knew this deep down like it was part of who he was, not just something he carried on the outside. He laughed off the Demon King he'd only ever heard about, thinking his own curse was nothing compared to whatever the so-called god of was dealing with. The curse just broke apart, like it couldn't handle his determination. He dropped to the ground while shouts echoed around him. He started blacking out from how much it hurt, but in his head he kept telling himself he was good. This pain honestly didn't even come close to what he went through before, back when the Phaeton family kept him locked up, using him for their brutal experiments where they'd chop off his limbs just to see them grow back. One guy thought they should just deal with the prisoner fast and head back to the Phaeton family, thinking that was the best way to handle how messed up things were. Out of nowhere, a hidden warrior came through and took out Phaeton's guys with one clean swing. The guards started yelling, trying to warn everyone that intruders were in the building and telling people to stop them. Everything was wild with chaos everywhere. He snapped awake and realized he was just lying outside with the moon shining down on him. For a second, he couldn't figure out how he even ended up out there. He barely caught a quiet voice checking if he was awake. Showed up right in front of him, blood all over his clothes. He looked seriously sorry for not getting there sooner. Right then he got it. The Knight Commander was actually here for him, ready to get him out of this mess. Looked totally wrecked, pain all over his face as he kept saying sorry to his young master. He moved slow, like he was carrying a bunch of arrows stuck in him, barely hanging on. He totally lost it and just broke down, crying so hard he started yelling too. He snapped awake in his bed, face still wet from crying. That memory was still stuck in his head, messing with him as soon as he opened his eyes. He started thinking maybe the whole mana cultivation thing actually worked, but any hype he had disappeared fast when memories from his old nightmares came crashing back as soon as he tried to sleep. Even with everything that happened, he kept telling himself things would be different this time. Now that he actually had a way to switch things up, he wasn't about to let the same mess happen again. He knew he had to keep this method on the low, no one else could find out. He knew he had to stay on his toes around the Phaeton family since they were always on high alert. Deep down, he could tell he wasn't strong enough yet to take them head on. He figured it was time to speed up the downfall of the Sermon family, since that was the next move in his plan. He forced a fake smile in front of and saying he messed up the mana purification method and felt bad about it. Couldn't believe what just happened. He froze for a second, totally thrown off, trying to tell himself it wasn't real. Nobody said anything and everyone just sat there bummed out. He kept the truth to himself, not because he wanted to mess with anyone, but because he honestly didn't think telling them would help. Deep down, he figured they wouldn't even buy it if he did spill. He tried to explain himself, saying he just wanted to live up to what everyone expected from him, but in the end, he still messed up. Right then, he let know he didn't have any mana left in him, and if she was curious, she could check for herself. Wasn't buying what he said, so she wanted to check things out for herself. Gave magic a shot to double-check things. She couldn't believe it, the energy just straight up disappeared. One second it was there, the next it was gone, like someone hit delete on it. She just stood there, struggling to process how the mana actually vanished for real. She kept replaying yesterday in her head, pretty sure she actually felt the running through him. He walked out barely able to keep his balance, totally thrown off by everything that just happened. Wanted to cheer his master up, telling him not to get too down and pointing out how he already took down that monster. He hoped that would help his master get back into sword training with more energy. He told Nanny there was no way he could go through that again. The pain was so bad, even eating was a struggle. Just stood there stunned by what he heard, and any hope he had pretty much disappeared on the spot. 2 months later, Colin is just standing outside his room, kind of lost in thought. Colin felt down seeing that the young master stayed holed up in his room again, not coming out at all for another day. She points out that with the family head gone, the Madame tried hard to keep the family legacy alive. But it was getting tougher for her to handle as things kept piling up and she was running out of options. The servant checked in with Nanny Colin, wondering if her boss spent another night holed up in his room. She nodded, looking kind of disappointed about it. It had already been 3 months since that monster wrecked him out on the training ground. Now people were starting to talk, saying he barely even paid attention to the commander anymore. One of the other servants points out that when someone suddenly starts acting different, it could mean something bad is about to happen, maybe even death. He wonders if what just happened was all just a weird dream. Colin backed him up hard, making it clear he really tried to meet what everyone wanted from him that day. She definitely didn't expect it when the servant dropped the news. Everyone called him the disgrace of the Sermon family, and his reputation as a troublemaker wasn't just palace gossip. The whole kingdom knew about him. Colin could really feel how harsh this was for a kid his age, but the servant just laid it out. When your family's falling apart, people only get let down if they expected something in the first place. As more people on the staff started quitting, the servant decided he was out too, letting everyone know he'd be gone by the end of the month. He wanted to know what Colin was really planning. Chilling in his room, he picked up on how the food wasn't hitting like it used to. That's when it clicked. The family's money problems were getting serious. He didn't even look stressed. A sneaky grin showed up on his face, like he knew everything was playing out just how he wanted. Back in the day, he would blown the rest of his cash trying anything just to get by. But after all he's been through with, he knows he's gotta chill and be patient this time. He stayed completely still, hoping his enemies would chill out and drop their guard. He just waited for the perfect chance to catch them off guard. Everything started falling apart when the family head just vanished. After that, people kept searching, but every search just burned through what little energy and supplies they had left. The training grounds, usually packed with people, were now totally empty. There were just a handful of knights who clearly didn't know what they were doing, plus some servants who honestly didn't even look like they wanted to be there. Even the guys who used to hang around the family, trying to get on their good side, were there too. Everyone belayed as soon as they saw how bad things got. Being on his own gave him the space to act like he was hiding away from the world. He noticed things weren't falling apart as fast as he expected, so he started putting in more effort to speed up the family's downfall. Colin came charging into his room full of energy. It was time for training and the commander wasn't letting it slide. He wanted to see him, no excuses. He didn't want anyone to notice how tired he was, so he acted like he was good to go. She caught him off guard when she yanked the covers right off him. She just scooped him up and held him like he was a little kid, and he couldn't believe what was happening. Colin was locked in, letting everyone know she wasn't going anywhere. The Sermon family was her squad for life. He couldn't help but give a weird little smile, feeling kind of embarrassed by what just happened. Out on the training field, Commander watched his young master handle the sword and called him out for the way he was holding it. He wanted to hype him up, letting him know that just because he couldn't sense mana right away didn't mean it was game over. If he kept grinding with his sword training, mana would start coming to him on its own. His face tightened up when he saw the guy hiding again, realizing these dudes weren't backing down anytime soon. Compared to everyone else, he was totally fired up and wanted to show his crew some real payback for having his back. Still, he kept his late-night training on the down low, using that body control move so no one would catch on. He picked up this move in a stealthy assassin trick that lets him fake how his body's doing. He'd already started using it without people catching on. Right after that, the system popped up with messages saying his experience, endurance, and strength all went up by 1. Noticed him acting weird when he suddenly made up an excuse about needing the bathroom. Not sure what was going on, pulled out his phone and tried to call him. He realized he still couldn't keep the skill steady. Every time he moved fast, it just fell apart. He pulled up his status window and saw he'd hit level 3. Strength, agility, endurance, and mana were all up, and his curse rank dropped to B. After 3 months of grinding in secret, he couldn't help but be pumped about how smoothly things were going. He's got a plan. Once his stats hit 20, he's all about grinding his level hard. First up, he's aiming for the ghost profession, just like he did back in. After that, he's looking to level up his necromancer and assassin skills. His thoughts got cut off when someone totally unexpected showed up with Held, the head butler for the Sermon family, showed up and said sorry for stopping by. He noticed things weren't playing out like last time, but it was obvious the letter he had was what kicked everything off. He started checking out what the letters said while watched him. Inside the letter, it straight up invited him to the birthday party for the second prince of the kingdom, happening in December 1892. That day stuck with him. It was the last thing that made everything about the Sermon family's downfall click for him. He sat in the carriage barely awake, yawning because this birthday party already sounded lame. Noticed he just woke up since the guy had been knocked out the whole trip. Turns out he blamed it on Colin, who kept him up late picking out outfits. He thought back to how hyped Colin got picking out outfits for the capital trip, and how she was set on tagging along with him the whole time. Got it, he knew, and weren't coming with him this time. He didn't see it coming at all. A huge wave of monsters showed up out of nowhere, and he couldn't help but wonder why they picked that exact moment. The Sermon family's main job is to stop Dark Zone monsters from sneaking into, so got sent out to the border to handle it. Had to head out fast because his mom needed her for some family stuff while he was gone, and honestly she didn't have a choice. So this 12-year-old kid ends up in the capital, basically carrying his whole family's hopes on his shoulders. He's there, trying to calm him down and let him know things aren't as bad as they seem. Nobody even thinks about messing with Sermon's direct family. Back then, he knew this was actually how things used to be. Back then, just sending a servant to say congrats was cool. But now that the family's not doing so hot, the head of the family has to show up in person, no excuses. He knew this was on him, but honestly he'd planned for it all along. The group finally rolled up to the royal capital. He got out of the carriage and saw a bunch of people waiting for him. Prince saw him walk in and smiled, calling him the dragon of right away. The second prince showed up looking sharp and confident, like he knew exactly what he was doing. Showed up keeping it respectful, letting the guy know he appreciated the invite and was grateful for how the kingdom was treating him. He didn't really buy into all that talk about hospitality. Just thinking back to his walk from the city gate to the palace, it was hard for him to believe any of it was real. He could tell everyone around was eyeing the Sermon family's busted-up carriage, throwing him those pity stares. He realized everyone at school was already talking about him, calling him a troublemaker and saying he was desperate. The news about his family's downfall was everywhere, and it felt like people couldn't stop gossiping. He could totally tell the noble was looking at him with straight-up disrespect, like the guy thought he was a joke or something. That just made him more sure of himself, so he hid a grin knowing things were playing out just like he wanted. He greeted the second prince, sounding pretty unsure and kinda awkward. He started thinking to himself if he should just keep going and match their vibe. The escorts and guards were getting restless. They showed up a whole week before the party, but he stayed holed up in his room for 5 days straight. They weren't happy about missing out on meeting the other envoys. He teased the young master for being too shy, saying he couldn't even handle saying hi to the important people. The guys started getting louder about missing out on all the fun at the palace, good food, drinks, and girls, just because they were stuck hanging around him. Everyone stopped complaining when a coworker burst in, out of breath, and let them know the young master was actually showing up to the banquet tonight. He told his guys to get ready too. They couldn't hide how hyped they were, grinning ear to ear as they realized they finally got to go to the banquet. He was hyped, but there was a catch. He wanted them to keep it under wraps until the event. No one could know, not even. Even though he wasn't sure he was ready, wanting to go to the party totally took over everything else. He figured showing up would chill out his escort and stop all the complaining. He made the most of the last few days, just grinding on his training without anything getting in his way. He reminded himself he wasn't just showing up to the banquet to keep the escorts happy. There was something bigger he wanted out of this, and that's why he was really locked in. A fancy carriage rolled up outside and a guy with white hair and a red outfit hopped out. In his head, he marked his entrance as saint, like he was making it official to himself. Everyone started yelling as soon as young Master Sans rolled in. He moved through the crowd like he owned the place, not even hesitating as everyone watched him. Greeted Sans and mentioned that Prince would probably be pretty surprised to see Sans show up in person. Sans walked up too, grinning in the sly way that made it clear he already knew the Sermon family had shown up before anyone else did. He started looking around and joked about where the legendary Sermon disappeared to, not really expecting a serious answer. Didn't get what was going on, just staring while kept messing with him, acting like everyone already knew what was up. He wanted everyone to hear about what happened to the Sermon family and what went down with him. Right then checked him out, noticing how Sans had already hit 5th Circle Mage status by 15, which was wild. Everyone expected big things from him, especially with his family hyping him up. Spoke up, calling out the fact that someone had the nerve to disrespect the Sermon family right there, in the Mother Kingdom's banquet hall. Just grinned in this messed up way, and acted like there was no way those rumors about him being the worst guy around were real. He said someone needed to get punished for trashing his family's name. Was seriously annoyed, thinking about how Sans had been drinking since he was 7, and even took out a commoner when he was 12. He couldn't get why someone like Sans would even try to trash-talk the Sermon family. Right then the Chamberlain raised his voice and let everyone know Sermon was coming in. Dragon of, and the young master of the Sermon family had just showed up. Everyone in the hall was totally caught off guard, and couldn't stop thinking about why he dipped so fast after shutting himself in his room. He walked in wearing sharp clothes and looked super confident, nothing like the stuff people had been saying about him. Everyone started whispering and checking him out, kind of impressed by how put together he looked. You could tell right away there was no sign his family was slipping, and honestly nobody could deny he had that Sermon vibe running strong. Sans could tell people stopped focusing on him as soon as someone brought up in that Sermon name. Seeing the spotlight flip back to made him mad, and deep down, jealousy started kicking in hard. He walked right up to Sans, totally sure of himself, wanting to know if this was really Sans. He said his brother Roz had already told him plenty about this guy. Things instantly got tense when his name came up. The missing 4th son from the Sermon family wasn't someone people brought up for fun. Just shot back with a straight face, letting everyone know he had his own stories too. He kept messing with him, bringing up how they all went to the academy together. Everyone there definitely knew about it. Even after Sans dipped a few months in, his stories were still going around. Sans got mad and started thinking of him as a real jerk. He kept pushing, bringing up how Sans had picked on another kid before. He kept messing with one of the girls at school. He tried to remember more and brought up the story about the knee. Stepped in fast to chill things out, letting everyone know had actually helped out before with some solid medicine when his knee was acting up. He reached out and grabbed his hand, remembering there was something the Knight Commander had told him that he totally forgot to bring up. He grabbed him and motioned for him to come along. Hearing that, Sans got heated. It brought back memories of an old insult he really didn't want anyone finding out about. He shot him a glare, catching on that the guy was trying to mess with him. He mumbled under his breath, and that just made him even more fired up. He kept it to himself, knowing Sansa getting mad was actually a big part of what he needed for his plan to work. Later, couldn't hold back and just started cussing out his opponent. Thought back to when the guy mentioned everyone already knew the rumors about him, and how his brother had filled him in with all the details. That's when realized for sure was in on what went down. He wasn't just kicked out of the academy, he got straight up expelled. After that, his family stepped in hard, using all their connections to keep him quiet and make sure no one heard about what really happened, especially that embarrassing story about his knee. He remembered that embarrassing time when he had to get down on one knee in front of. Struggled to keep it together, breathing hard because he was mad and kind of scared at the same time. Showed up out of nowhere, giving off serious boss vibes. The way he showed up, everyone could tell he wasn't playing. He made it clear Sans had messed up big time. While all that was going on, Sans suddenly remembered something rough from back in the day. He saw himself fumbling for words in front of, trying to explain he had no clue the girl was actually his girlfriend. He just wanted to be nice to a regular student who had joined the academy, nothing more. Cut him off, not letting him get another word in. Reminded him that the girl was still part of their academy squad, no matter where she came from. He called him out hard for using magic on another student, making it clear that wasn't cool. Then told him straight up and serious to get down on his knees and apologize for real, no excuses or things were about to get way worse for him. Just stood there, his face locked in with this scary, serious look while he laid down the threat. Sans was down on his knees, totally wrecked by blue magic. Looked determined, like he'd ditch his own family name and take Sans out if it came to that. Sans snapped back to reality, losing it and clutching his head, barely able to handle how pissed off and frustrated he was. He tried to keep his cool, telling himself he had to stick to the plan no matter what. Even if getting back it didn't work out, he knew he still had to make sure his little brother wouldn't talk. He wiped the sweat off his face, and a sly grin crept in, already planning something ruthless for him down the line. While all that was going on, someone started knocking on the door. Sans let them in without thinking much about it. Held, the head butler, walked into the fancy cabin. Not missing a beat, threw out a sarcastic comment about how secretive this whole meeting was. He ended up face to face with someone he never thought he'd run into, right in the middle of the night. As the carriage rolled along, he replayed the party in his head, pretty sure everything went down just like he wanted. He managed to ditch the whole rumor spreader rep and nailed his act as the unlucky rich kid who just couldn't get the hang of magic or sword fighting. Sans totally bought it. Snapped out of his thoughts, thinking about how the young master totally owned it at the banquet. Watching him, couldn't help but feel like the Sermon family still had something left in the tank. Hope wasn't gone yet. Couldn't really connect with the nobles, and things got messy with the Phaeton family. Even after all that, he still took back what he said. He couldn't hide how hyped he was watching his master go off in front of Sans. He stared him down, eyes locked on like he could see right through him. Out of nowhere, he launched a spell, catching off guard. Couldn't help but wonder what was up with that move. Didn't expect it when the carriage suddenly went quiet, like everything else just faded out. Then right in that silence, those words about hope still burning replayed in his head. He had to face the hard truth. If he really meant everything he said, he never would turn his back on the Sermon family to begin with. His face went pale and sweat started running down as he talked about what he did, calling his crimes straight up dangerous and not something anyone could just move past. His voice shook while he tried to figure out what the other guy was really saying. He caught himself and thought maybe those things weren't so bad if he did it for his family. Was honestly surprised at how much his master seemed to know, but his master just told him he saw it all coming. So he decided to let him try again. He told him to pay attention to what he was about to say and let him figure things out on his own, just like he always did. His heart started racing as he listened to his master's plan. He couldn't believe he even came up with something like that. The more details came out, the head butler just couldn't wrap his head around it. Like, how did this kid pull all of this off? He kept running it back in his mind, trying to figure out what was really up with this guy. Put his hands over his face, totally caught up in the moment. All he wanted right then was to hype up his master and show support. He watched him with zero stress, almost like he could already guess what he'd do next. Held wasn't following the usual royal game plan anymore, and everyone could see it. Right then stared at his young master, honestly surprised at how the kid could just stand there, grinning like he owned the place, even though he knew exactly what was about to go down. kept telling himself there was no way his master was actually smiling. He was dead sure it was some savage killer energy that made his whole body tense up. The carriage came to a quick stop, making the knight wonder what was going on. The knight saw the driver wasn't moving anymore, dude was gone. Right then, it hit him that they just walked right into a setup. As the knight yelled out, he tried to warn everyone about the poison, letting everyone know the ambush was about to go down. Arrows charged with mana started coming down hard on the carriage, so the commanders started yelling at everyone to guard it. He told the mages to throw up shields right away. The guard commander couldn't believe the enemy actually had the guts to go after the Sermon family. He wasted no time and told his knights to handle the attackers right away. Everything was wild out there, so the commander told everyone not to just run up to the carriage. If they weren't careful, they'd get caught up and could get hit by their own guys or sliced by the enemy. But then things got wild. They realized the young master was just gone from the carriage, like he'd vanished into thin air. Everyone just froze, caught off guard, and the guard commander had to ask what was going on. Was there, riding fast on a horse with a masked guy. The two of them were gone in a flash. The horse tore across the ground, hooves pounding like it was on a mission. Right in front of his eyes, a bunch of system alerts popped up, showing that darkness kicked in. His senses started acting weird and his body was getting weaker. He thought back on everything that happened so far, realizing there were way more status effect spells than he actually needed. He figured the Sermon family guards were probably running around like crazy right now. He ran the moment back in his head, realizing that in his last life he got snatched up during something just like this. His family went all out trying to find him, dropping everything and burning through their money since he was their only heir. In the end, the family lost almost everything and crashed hard. This time, he saw a chance to flip the situation and make it work for him, tweaking the timing so it lined up with what he wanted. He used the kidnapping to really drive home that everything was falling apart. Earlier, he mentioned to that things at home had gotten pretty serious, and if he made a move to fix it now, it could actually make a difference. The other noble families would see them as a problem and probably team up to take them down. So he started dropping rumors about some prophecy, trying to look like a harmless heir who wasn't worth worrying about. This way, his rivals would chill out and stop seeing him as a threat. Even so, he realized the Phaeton family was different. They were always out to wipe out anything Sermon started, no questions asked. He saw everyone getting heated, so he figured he might as well use it to his advantage. After Sans totally fell for his bait, he knew he had them right where he wanted. He knew this was the perfect time to make his move, right as they were heading back from the capital. He thought things would go smoother if someone on the inside helped out. He looked at, basically asking if this mess was going to be the lowest point for their family, or if they were about to flip the script and start building things back up. Right now, his screen pinged with a system alert saying his magic stats, and the Blue Earth technique were actually holding off any bad effects. He knew things were running smooth so far, just like they said it would. He didn't see it coming when suddenly spoke up, sounding sorry and calling him young master. Told to follow the plan exactly, making it clear that this was his one shot at making up for what he did. Right then, the system started popping off with notifications. First, it let him know his magic stats just blocked some bad effects and even leveled up by 1. Right after, another alert dropped. Every single stat had hit 20, which instantly unlocked the senses stat for him. He was pretty satisfied with himself, knowing he'd just nailed the first growth requirement. With the moon lighting up the night, Sans noticed how much effort put in and gave him some props for it. He didn't expect to actually show up in person to seal the deal, so he was caught off guard. Since all he did was sell off his own guys, shot back with some heavy sarcasm, basically calling Sans's words brutal. He said Sans was acting like he was a dog biting the hand that feeds him, and told him he better just deal with whatever comes his way if he's gonna betray people like that. Finally dropped the price, making it clear he actually had receipts from the family to back everything up. Wasn't really buying what he heard, but Sans pointed out that the family was basically a big deal in. Everyone knew their name, especially when it came to assassins. Besides dealing info as their main gig, they couldn't really risk selling fake stuff. He let them know the scroll had proof that the missing direct heirs from the Sermon family had actually been spotted. Finally understood that this was the real reason turned on the family. The head butler basically traded him away since he was seen as useless, all to go hunt down the older brothers who actually had what it takes to run the Sermon family. He knew that even if had the info, wouldn't have a shot at getting it. The Phaeton family was way too loaded and would scooped it up first, probably dropping way more cash than ever could. Sans shut down the meeting without any hesitation, basically telling everyone that was done and straight up calling him a traitor. That second thing made him remember he still had a promise to keep. Shot a sly grin and promised he'd bring the soldiers back to the Sermon family safe and sound, no funny business. Once the procession headed off, one of the guys asked if they should take care of. He shut that down, thinking coming back wouldn't matter since he was pretty much guaranteed to fail anyway. He figured the Sermon family had finally put it together, was the one behind everything that went down. Now that they knew, he had to come back if he wanted his whole plan to actually work out, letting everyone know he was ready and everything was set. Sans wasn't about to let anyone else deal with, so he rolled up on his own, ready to show off a little. He snapped him out of his coma, tossing out some sarcasm and basically checking if he finally understood what was going on. He saw the Sermon family looking weak and embarrassed, and honestly he couldn't keep himself from laughing at how far they'd fallen. Pretended he had no idea what was going on and looked at like he was clueless. Just laughed at him, making fun of how couldn't put two and two together, even though it was obvious. Made it clear he had basically grabbed the most important people from the Sermon family and was totally missing it. He tried to scare him, throwing out some warning about what might happen next, but the other guy just started laughing, not taking it seriously at all and making fun of the whole thing. He threw a sarcastic reminder at him about how he acted earlier at the banquet. He walked up to him, pretty sure the guy had already heard some rumors from his brother. Out of nowhere, he just went for it and hit him with a quick attack before he could even react. He unleashed punch after punch, not holding back for a second. In his head, he wished the guy's whole family had just vanished. He wanted to make him pay for stepping up to the Phaeton family like it was nothing. As he took the hits, his eyes had this weird spark like he was totally unfazed. Meanwhile, Sans started yelling, finally letting everyone know why he was really there. Even though he'd been all safe, surrounded by guards in his carriage, it turned out was the one who betrayed him. He broke it to him straight up. He'd been traded away for just a single detail about his brothers. He stood there with his arms wide, totally confident, making it clear that nobody was coming to help him now. He clenched his fist and shot a creepy grin, breaking down how things were about to get wild between the Phaeton family and the Sermon family. This whole kidnapping plan, yeah, it was just the start of a serious showdown. Blood started dripping from his mouth, but he still managed to call the other guy out for running his mouth nonstop. Out of nowhere, his eyes went wide as he spotted this weird grin creeping onto his victim's face. He definitely didn't see that coming. Out of nowhere, this bright green circle lit up on the ground around him. The magic circle lit up around him. Size locked in, making it clear he'd been waiting for this exact moment ever since he got back to. The look hit so hard it left him stumbling over his words, caught totally off guard. Looked over himself, kind of freaking out, trying to figure out what was going on and why he couldn't feel anything at all. He just assumed all the chaos was some last-minute move to buy more time. Just grinned at him, called him stupid, and pointed out that he already warned him about running his mouth too much. He started to answer back, but then out of nowhere, a magic circle showed up right around his neck. He instantly reached for his throat, real panic kicking in when he realized his voice was totally gone. He couldn't get a sound out at all. Right then he just told him straight up he'd activated the magic silence circle, and that move basically shut down all high-level magic. He sat there totally lost for words, trying to wrap his head around what just happened. Meanwhile, just started messing with him, throwing shade about how he couldn't even use magic right now. Sans scrambled to pull together any mana he could, knowing he had to stick with magic that didn't need any chanting like. He was stuck with the third circle's limits, plus his dad made it clear, no killing allowed. He let loose his fire move, didn't back down and just stared him down, thinking that was where he messed up big time. He was ready to risk snapping his leg if that's what it took, and he knew his dad wouldn't even be mad about it. Right then a system pop-up showed up, letting him know he'd actually tanked the spell. He looked at his opponent and basically roasted him for pulling a third circle spell, like it was a total waste of his final shot. Sans went pale and started sweating. Dude was clearly stressing. He went in for another hit but wasn't having it. He made it clear he wasn't just gonna stand there and take punches. Sans's hand started lighting up with this bright blue energy. He fired up, blue magic circles lighting up around him. He lost his magic before it even got started, and everyone just saw him as clueless since any spell at that level got shut down right away in front of this guy. Sans realized his magic wasn't working, so he pulled out a dagger, ready to throw hands the old-fashioned way. His face lit up with a confident grin as he snapped the iron shackles off his wrists in one clean move. He looked at the guy who was totally caught off guard and just let him know that snapping chains was easy now. He also dropped that he had more up his sleeve than just a couple of magic circles, like he was just getting started. He fired up the third circle paralysis. Electric bolts ripped through Sans, making his whole body tense up as pain and fear took over. He couldn't hold back, his screams just echoed raw and loud. At the end, he stood over the guy who was just lying there, not moving at all. He told him to get up and check out what just happened, making it clear that everything had flipped and he was in charge now. He woke up groggy, only to see the guy sitting right across from him, messing around with a dagger like it was no big deal. The guy didn't waste any time, throwing out some sarcastic comments about how long he'd been out, even saying he almost woke him up himself. He also took a shot at the dagger, pretending to give it props but clearly just making fun of him. Sans woke up and instantly noticed heavy iron chains holding him up from the ceiling. He was caught off guard when he realized he could still talk. The chains holding him were just regular iron, not the kind that blocks magic. He couldn't believe messed up and left a mage with nothing but basic restraints. He saw a chance and went for it, dropping a wind blade spell to break out. But instead of getting free, all that came out was a loud scream that filled the room. Just stood there, looking at him with zero emotion, basically calling him out for messing up. His whole body hurt, shaking like crazy, and then he spotted these weird, glowing green lines all over himself. He let him know that, while he was knocked out, he'd already used the dagger to draw magic circles all over his body. Just froze when he heard it, totally caught off guard. He broke down this wild technique where you actually carve magic circles right into your own skin, leaving scars that stick around forever. People call it the blood circle. He let him know that they keep the victim awake on purpose, using some kind of magic spell during the whole thing. It hits him this is the same thing he did before, back when he left scars on that kid's body with his dagger. He stuttered, freaked out, totally lost on how the guy even knew a spell like that. Everyone was talking about how he couldn't use mana at all, but just chalked it up to what he remembered from his past life and everything that went down in the world of 3 months back, right after he got the mana linking method, he zeroed in on leveling up his concealment skill before anything else. Picking up new skills was easy for him since he had figured out the whole magic circle thing back in. Every skill has its own little circle, and to use one he just sends mana straight into that specific circle. Only master players get to see these circles, and he still has every single one memorized from all the skills he picked up before. He didn't have to grind through studying or keep running back the same training. All he really needed was enough mana and the right skills. As soon as the skill unlocked, he grabbed it right away. With that new concealment move, he managed to dip out of the sermon palace without anyone even noticing. He knew this warehouse like the back of his hand, so he got everything ready ahead of time, setting up traps and locking in his skills to catch Sans' photon. Nodded at his opponent, almost like he was giving props for making the trap so easy to pull off. He pointed out that the magic circle he set up wasn't just for show, its real purpose was to crank up whatever pain Sans was planning to dish out. Now let him know he should probably start worrying about how much it was about to hurt. He started freaking out, yelling non-stop and begging the guy to quit. After a bit he held up his dagger, still covered in blood, like he was ready to call it quits. Was out of breath from all the pain, thinking it was finally done, and he started to feel grateful. Just cut him off with this creepy grin, not backing down at all. Sans tried to warn him, saying he wasn't going to let anything slide, and that the Phaeton family guys were about to pull up, so had better bounce before things got messy. He nailed down exactly when they'd show up 1 week later, and that had him seriously wondering how he even knew that. Let him know he was fully aware that the return was dragged out on purpose for a whole week, just so he could mess with him solo. He also made it clear that he'd told his guys to come back only after that week was up. Figured out that he'd been awake the whole time in the carriage, and now was trying to stall, acting like his crew was about to roll up any second. He laughed off his own lie, wondering if Phaeton's guys would actually give him a heads up before showing up. He realized that if he'd actually been honest about them showing up soon, he would just kept quiet and tried to save himself, hoping they'd show up and finish him off anyway. He wrapped up his speech by pointing out exactly who the newcomers were. They turned out to be the top squad from his clan, the ones everyone calls Phaeton's Fingers. He let his target know straight up that the guys showing up were actually his clan's top squad, the ones everyone called Phaeton's Fingers. Sans started yelling like crazy, making it clear he wasn't making any of this up. Kept going, landing punches while the guy just kept crying out in pain. He figured it was time to call it a night and stuck to his promise, but not before telling him, in a totally sarcastic way, to just keep crying. Sans yelled out his name, sounding straight up mad. He started getting ready for the guests who were about to show up. He knew there was zero room for mistakes if he wanted to go up against the Phaeton family's best after just 1 week. A week slid by, and that's when the attackers finally got the go-ahead. It had already been a week since the sermon heir's young master got snatched, and people started talking about how he'd gone into that place and just dropped off the map. No messages, nothing. They were honestly surprised that nobody even tried to talk things out the whole time, even though they said they were keeping a close watch on the hallways. The commander was clearly annoyed, kind of worried that pushing the torture game too far might end up causing some real trouble. He tells his crew that the family boss wants the sermon boy brought in alive, no exceptions. The commander just went for it, charging in solo while everyone else stood back, totally surprised by his move. Phaeton's Fingers always answer to the family head first, no matter what. Even if the whole Phaeton clan's safety is on the line, the head's word is what really matters. He blasted the gate open using his magic, making it clear to everyone that he was rolling in by himself. He told his guys to hang back outside so they wouldn't get in his way. As soon as he stepped in, he picked up on something weird right away. The place felt off, like something bad was lurking around, but there wasn't any mana anywhere. Out of nowhere, magic traps went off and started launching arrows and random stuff everywhere. The commander barely managed to dodge them, struggling to keep up. He quickly moves to put up a magic barrier trying to protect himself. He figured out things were way worse than he thought and something bad had happened to Sans, so he quickly used the detect trap spell. He couldn't believe how on point the traps were, all perfectly linked up with these wild magic circles. Whoever set this up clearly knew the place inside out and had some serious skills. He looked around, trying to figure out who kept setting up traps all over the hallways. He started thinking, was it someone from the Sermon family or was someone else messing with him? The commander got hit with even more attacks and finally decided he'd had enough. He threw up a double barrier, making it clear he wasn't messing around anymore. He was done wasting time. He stared down the stranger, letting him know he messed with the wrong guy, one of Phaeton's crew. Out of nowhere, he spotted someone tied up, all messed up and bleeding everywhere. He spotted the young master Sans right there in the middle of all that blood, and it honestly threw him off. He sprinted over and started hacking at the chains, trying to get him out fast. He looked at his master, voice shaky, trying to figure out what just went down. He took a good look at the bloody body, and after checking the leftover mana, he knew right away, this was definitely Sans. He just stood there frozen, trying to process what really went down in this place. The whole situation hit him hard, and he couldn't shake off how messed up it all felt. The commander hurried over to check how Sansa was doing. He told someone to grab a healing potion, but he made it clear they needed to get Sansa out of there right away. He let everyone know it wasn't safe to stick around since the enemy was still hiding somewhere. He pointed out all the traps blocking their path, showing that things could get messy real quick. He looked around and realized the enemy had already taken down the young master and tied him up, but left him behind instead of taking him away. That made him start thinking, maybe saving the kid wasn't the only thing the enemy wanted. The commander knew he was probably just being used as bait, but he refused to back down from what he had to do. Out of nowhere, his eyes fluttered open. He looked totally out of it, barely hanging on, but he managed to get a few words out, just enough to let everyone know Sermon was the guy behind what happened to him. He managed to say who he was, barely getting the words out. The commander honestly couldn't believe what he was hearing. The commander didn't waste a second. He went for some serious seventh circle magic to lock the kid down. He was ready to shut down any fight the boy had left, planning to break him apart, mind and body, with zero hesitation. He didn't expect someone to start roasting him from behind, calling him way too careful after spotting him just hanging there upside down. The commander didn't even have time to figure out what was happening before shot off a fireball. The guy just brushed it off, thinking was messing around with some weak illusion magic. The commander suddenly got hit with crazy pain when he had to pull the plug on his seventh circle spell before it was done. The mana backlash was no joke, and it messed him up hard. He started teasing him, pointing out how much the magic backlash must hurt. Still, he said someone as strong as him would probably bounce back fast. He told the commander that if anything felt off when he walked in, he should handle him right away. The commander totally lost it when he realized was using illusions on him. Out of all people, tried that on the guy who basically owns illusion magic. He yelled out, telling all the illusions to get lost. All the illusions he set up just faded away. He had no choice but to run straight at him, ready to go head to head. The commander didn't waste any time and just straight up kicked him in the face, landing it hard. He looked at him with this smug look, basically trolling, wondering if he really thought that weak move would actually get past his defense. He just threw it out there totally unfazed, saying even if half his face melted off, the family head wouldn't have cared or even noticed. He let him know that the illusion was all he had left, and if he had anything stronger up his sleeve, he would pull it out way before charging in like that. The commander was ticked off, realizing he'd totally underestimated what a Phaeton's finger could do. He spotted something weird about the dagger. Out of nowhere, a dagger stabbed him in the neck from behind. The commander spat out blood and just stared at the young master, totally stunned. Took over, basically letting everyone know he was done watching the commander act all cocky for no reason. The commander froze when it hit him. He actually understood soul transfer magic. Just dropped the wild news that Sansa's soul was stuck inside his body and she was totally out cold. Wasn't worried about getting killed either, since he guessed the commander wouldn't go against orders from the family head anyway. He explained that the blood circle on his body didn't just make pain worse. His real secret move was this wild magic that let him swap souls into other bodies and take them over. The commander pulled off his final magic move and took him out. The attack went off and caused a massive blast. He was pumped now that he finally took out the commander. He walked up to the body and grabbed the healing potion he was carrying. He grabbed the healing potion and dumped it on himself right away. As the potion soaked in, some system messages popped up saying he just unlocked a pain resistance skill, and it instantly leveled up, making it way easier for him to tough out his injuries. Even though his whole body hurt like crazy, he knew there was no way out. He had to hurt Sansa's body, the one he was stuck in, so it would definitely look like Commander did it and his plan would actually work. He yelled out, pumped up from pulling it off. He couldn't believe he just took down a 7th Circle Great Mage, one of Phaeton's top guys. While he was still hyped, his screen started popping off with system alerts, showing he finished the mission and just leveled up. He checked his stats and saw his level shot up from 2 to 15 just like that. He figured it had to be because he took down someone as tough as. He thought about whether things were going up just because of the mission, but pushed it out of his head and locked in on what he had to do next. He pulled the body over and set it down on the magic altar. He knew that pulling off this next move would seriously change how fast he could hit his goals. He came up with his plan knowing that the skills circle sticks to the soul, not the body. So even while he's stuck inside someone else's body, he can still use his own mana like normal. He started pushing his mana into the circles he set up earlier. As he did it, he noticed his level would go down based on how much mana he used for this whole thing. His level dropped by 5, but right after that, a notification popped up saying he'd hit some extra goals and unlock the Shadow Job, the secret upgrade for assassins. He needs to get his agility stat up to 20 and mana to 15, all before he even hits level 5. He counted that as a win, but then checked out how many levels he still had left. He figured he'd give it 2 more shots, using whatever energy he had left. He got it on his second try, and right after, a notification popped up saying he unlocked veering and nailed all the requirements. He started racking up wins after landing the Hand of Death job, which is basically the top role for necromancers. So there's this secret job that needs 20 mana to unlock in the main class. It's all about being an assassin. He was supposed to stop after that, but leveling up so much after taking down Phaeton's finger had him thinking about pushing even further. He started wondering if he could actually score that secret job called Ghost. This was the legendary job you got by bringing together the assassin and necromancer classes and unlocking the senses stat. That's what made Crazy strong before. He figured out that the only thing stopping him now was that getting the Ghost job actually depended on how big his soul was. He couldn't help but worry about what kind of heat he'd catch if he messed up now. He locked in his decision, telling himself that if he pulled this off, everything would go exactly how he wanted. He jumped right into it, not even stopping to think. Because of that, his level dipped by another 5 degrees. Out of nowhere, a warning popped up telling him his soul was in trouble, and he had to chill for a bit. He suddenly let out a loud scream, and the whole room started to shake. He could feel his whole body breaking down, and for the first time, he started thinking maybe getting that third job promotion just wasn't possible. The pain just kept getting worse, way past what anyone could handle. He ended up looking back at his own body, trying to figure out what was even happening. He remembered the time he took out to save him. When threw herself in to protect the family, everything flipped. He just wouldn't give up no matter what. He was dead set on landing that Ghost job, even if it meant putting everything on the line, his soul included. Out of nowhere, a huge burst of energy shot out, and a pop-up showed up saying he'd just unlocked a secret job. He really hoped everything would work out this time. He was honestly stunned when he realized he didn't just land the Ghost job. He actually leveled up all the way to Phantom, which is like the top spot for ghosts. He froze when he heard the name Phantom. He'd never seen anything like this job before, not even back in. He checked out the description card and saw it was actually ranked above Ghost. He looked around and suddenly it hit him. He'd actually gotten everything he ever wanted. He stood up and let everyone know it was finally time to go with the plan they came up with from the start. He remembered that Ghost's hidden power boosts necromancy magic. He took out the 7th Circle Mage just to get ready for this exact moment. If he could actually turn his body into one of his followers, that would seriously speed up his whole plan. He fired up the Create skill even though that move is supposed to be level 70 only, but since there was a legendary mage's body right there, he could pull it off now. He tried to make a, but it didn't work out. Instead, the system just kicked in and started up something called Create Special Undead on its own. Something dark and purple started glowing around the body. The system popped up and wanted to know if he wanted to give the new creature a name. Outside, guys spotted a burst of energy out of nowhere. He started freaking out, not knowing what was gonna happen to the young master. He stepped out of the smoke, now in Sansa's worn-out and beat-up body. Right away, everyone pointed fingers at, saying it was all on him. He started yelling at the guards, calling out the commander for betraying them. He showed everyone just how rough he looked, like that alone proved the commander was up to no good. He said he got that guy tied up with some artifact, but it wouldn't last. He was planning to grab Sermon and dip before things got out of hand. He told the crew to stall as much as they could while he handled things with the family. He told them backup was on the way soon and dangled a solid reward if they could hold off the enemy until then. He jumped on his horse and rode off, leaving that spot behind. Later on, that moment ended up being the last time anyone saw young master, just like his guy mentioned in the report. Inside the Phaeton family tent, the subordinate nervously handed over his report to Paris, who was known as the family's 7th Circle Mage. The report finished with something wild. There was zero sign of anywhere inside. Paris saw that and just snapped, crumpling the paper in his fist. Paris stared hard at the report he was holding. If what it said was real, things just got pretty serious. He stared down his subordinate, making it clear he wasn't messing around, and wanted to know if anyone else was in on what went down that night. The subordinate nodded, clearly nervous and scared. Paris' assistant moved fast, taking out the subordinate in one quick motion. The guy's scream echoed through the place, making everyone freeze for a second. Paris realized the young master going missing was seriously bad news. Even worse, everyone started finding out that some people from the Phaeton family were actually caught up in kidnapping the head of the Sermon family. Paris caught the noise from outside his tent. The Phaeton guards had stepped up, blocking the Sermon forces and making it clear they weren't letting anyone through. Even though he'd been warned, the Sermon Knight commander just kept walking toward the tent. Stood there, not backing down, straight up asking his rivals what their move would be if they stepped in. He started going off, saying he'd end them all and calling everyone trash. Paris let him know straight up that showing up on someone else's turf without a heads up could start some serious beef. But he shot back hard, making it clear they kicked things off first, and told them to hand over the young master right now. He looked over at the flames tearing through the border area, realizing right then it was no longer just a hunch, this was definitely happening. A week after he went missing, a fire broke out. Then people found some weird underground place, and out of nowhere the Phaeton family set up camp there. All these things popping up at once made it obvious someone was trying to cover something up. Paris said he had no clue where he was, and on top of that, Photon had vanished too. Paris told him to help out with the search, but before he could even finish, the other guy cut him off, yelling over him to be quiet. He kept them back so nobody messed with the crime scene before the investigation wrapped up. Not far from where everything was going down, was seriously annoyed seeing the Phaeton squad show up. He really hoped things wouldn't blow up into a full-on fight. Jumped in and called him out for talking way too much, straight up saying he was acting like a traitor. He thought about how, if the young master hadn't sent that letter, he probably would ended up with Ash. She told him to keep quiet about everything else, and only talk if it was about finding the young master. Let it out that had said he was gonna make sure something was left behind. She started thinking about where this trace could be hiding. Figured it couldn't be somewhere obvious or the Phaeton family would already found it by now. He said the young master mentioned the family's secret Blue Earth technique was the only way anyone could actually find out where he was. He managed to pull off the technique at least once, so now there was a faint trail left behind. Even if it was barely there, someone could still track it down. Zoned in, dialed up her focus, and after a bit finally caught the signal. She lit up, letting everyone know she tracked him down. Everyone's eyes snapped over, surprised at what they saw. He spotted a dead body hanging from the tree. When they saw the body, all messed up with cuts and blood everywhere, it hit them hard. The words scratched into his chest saying he was the kidnapper and should be punished made it clear that was Sans lying there. Noticed another letter sitting at the base of the tree, and it totally caught him off guard. Was really hoping for some kind of clue about the young master, so he asked her if she'd found anything. She ended up spotting a letter right where they were searching. She scrolled through the note and saw he'd basically called that she'd end up reading it. He'd spent a while thinking about his choices, like maybe taking over Sans's body and wrecking the Phaeton family from the inside. But he knew the family head, who was this crazy strong 8th Circle Great Mage, would catch the soul swap in no time. For the second option, he could just go back to the Sermon family in his own body. If this goes down, it could kick off a war the Sermon family honestly can't handle right now, since stuff like this could easily start a brutal fight between both families. So he was down to his last choice. He made up his mind to just vanish, but before bouncing, he made sure to leave a reason that made sense for her, so when she finally figured it out, she wouldn't be left confused. Stood there still thinking about what was in the letter. After a minute, she figured it might be best to head back to the family. As they headed out, she sent off this magic bird that shot up into the sky. He let everyone know there was a ton of stuff to get done from here on out. Later on, back in the main city, someone reached out to let him know the commander was looking for him. They asked him to head back to the guild. Back with N hits her up, kind of anxious about what she just dropped. Not really hesitating this time, tells him she's certain now. He nods to his uncle, letting him know he's got it and is heading straight to the commander now. She wrapped up her speech, totally convinced now that the young master was locked in as the next big thing for the family. It's been 3 months since all that went down in the main city of the kingdom. Word got around fast about the clash between the Phaeton and Sermon families. Everyone started talking about how N's kingdoms jumped in right away to settle things down before it got out of hand. Word started spreading about what went down. Everyone was saying a traitor from the Phaeton family was behind snatching the last Sermon family kid. The whole thing wrapped up when the Sermon family took compensation from the Phaeton family. People still hadn't figured out who did it or where the missing son was, so everyone started talking about what was going on with the Sermon family. The family head, who everyone called Golden Dragon, had also vanished for a bit, and that just got more people guessing about what was really happening. People couldn't help but feel bad for the family. They used to be at the top, but now everything just fell apart for them. Over in one part of the capital, there was this spot called the Branch. It was where the Assassination Guild ran things. Sapphire, the branch manager and a second-grade assassin, just sat there bored out of his mind. Word got around to her that the Sermon family was really struggling right now. They were so strapped for cash, it seemed like money mattered more to them than even their own family ties. She was just sitting there, totally bored, when some random guy asked if she'd heard about the general manager for the Sermon family getting executed. People were saying the guy teamed up with the traitor from and didn't waste any time. He just took him out right there, no questions asked. She couldn't believe it. One of the hardest people to find in Olive actually showed up and handled the execution himself. Right then the door swung open and a young guy walked in. She knew him and greeted him as he stepped through. He gave a chill nod back, said hey to Mr. Dons too, and then Mr. Dons wanted to know if he was there to see the branch manager. She sat at her desk and glanced over at him, reminding him that today was the day they had planned. He pulled out a sealed letter and wanted to see if the guy recognized it. He let her know it was a letter that could get her into the guild for real. She gave a quick smile, letting him know he got it right, but also pointed out there was still one last challenge he had to face. She let him know his next step was his first legit mission, but she couldn't help thinking if this challenge even mattered for a guy with skills like his. At the branch part of the guild, which is basically one of the top 4 assassin groups, he somehow made it to the last test in just 2 months. She hyped him up for being different, calling him the standout of their crew and the youngest guy to ever make it into the guild in a whole century. He tried to play it humble, acting like he wasn't even close to her level as a second-grade assassin, but she wasn't buying any of it. She could see right through him and called out his fake humble act. She could tell right away that his face looked way more relaxed than the first time they met. He found himself just sitting there, realizing how fast the last 2 months had flown by. She remembered when he first showed up, no one really knew who he was, and he just kind of slid in without making a scene. Out of nowhere, he just dropped a ton of cash. He wanted someone taken out. He backed himself up by saying the guild will take any job if you've got the cash. She let him know that once she saw the payment go through, she handled things like he was a proper client, not just someone paying her. She just had this gut feeling that she wouldn't run into another client as weird as him again. She thought back to when this kid showed up, clothes all beat up, carrying way more cash than you'd ever expect, and asked for something totally out of the ordinary. He wanted to set up his own assassination, and that seriously got her attention. He wanted to see what the letter was about himself, so he told her to just call him when it was time for the test. Once he dipped out, this dude Cal showed up out of nowhere, stepping out of the shadows. Cal wasn't exactly happy. He wanted to know if she really let that guy join the guild just because she had some gut feeling. She wasn't having it. She brought up what went down after, when the guy actually teamed up with Martong and powered through the entire assassination training in just a month. She let Cal know that most people need at least 5 to 10 years to get through this training, but he wrapped it up way faster than anyone else, showing just how talented he really is. She checked with her assistant to see if he actually wrapped up the background check the right way. Cal started running through everything he'd found out. There was this guy, no last name, just with blue hair and green eyes. He got picked up on the streets and raised by some random teacher, but then that teacher just dipped one day. He explained that he signed up with the guild because he wanted to find out more about his teacher. But what really stood out was how he asked them to take him out, basically as a wild test to show he had what it took to join. Because of that, everyone saw what he could actually do and he breezed through training. Cal wrapped up his report. She wrote down that this was all stuff he told them himself, but she wasn't really sure if it was all true. He jumped in before she could keep going, basically proving he was telling the truth about everything. He headed over to the spot he said he used to stay at with his teacher. He noticed signs that someone had been staying there not too long ago. She paused and switched gears, realizing that even if all that stuff was real, what really had her head spinning was the chance that he could actually be Sermon, the Sermon family's young master who disappeared. She started connecting the dots, noticing that a mysterious guy her age showed up around the same time everything started happening. She couldn't help but side-eye the whole thing, thinking maybe it wasn't just random, since this whole obsession had really been getting under her skin. Cal just shrugged and said there's almost no way they're the same person. She got curious and wanted to know what made him think that. He laid out his doubts, bringing up stuff everyone already knew. Sermon doesn't have mana, can't handle a sword, runs out of energy fast, and basically misses every skill you'd expect. He'd been keeping tabs on since he was a kid, so his take was pretty much solid. He kept calling him the reason the family went downhill, not even thinking for a second that he could actually have any special skills like the kid who joined the guild. He let her decide if she wanted to keep tracking, but she shut it down fast and said she was done. She called out her assistant, thinking it was a waste to send someone like him on a job that didn't matter. Instead, she told him to check out the teacher the kid talked about. She figured if someone really stepped up to raise him, that person had to be something special. While he hung back, checking out everything from a distance, he couldn't help but smirk a little, that green glow around him. Yeah, it made him stand out and he was impressed, but also kinda annoyed at how the woman seemed way too on point with her instincts. Whenever spirits were around, he noticed his necromancer skills just felt way easier to use. He realized he could see and hear everything just by using those spirits, like he was tapped into their senses. Out of nowhere, Sapphire felt a chill go down her back and started thinking maybe it was just colder than usual today. He scrolled through his status window, checking out his Hand of Death class at level 13, while his Ghost and Phantom classes just sat there not being used. All his stats and skills popped up too, showing how much he'd leveled up both physically and mentally. He realized, pretty relieved, that all the levels he lost during the class switch were back. He realized putting mana into the body control skill was actually smart, since the problem was way bigger than just looking different on the outside. He got so good at hiding his presence that mana scans couldn't catch him, and even those second-tier assassins with their special skills couldn't see through his disguise. He suddenly thought back to that day and everything that went down. The system popped up and wanted to know if he wanted to name the creature. He decided to call it. He thought back to the first time he checked out, and honestly he was pretty stunned. The dude had actual numbers for strength, agility, and mana, plus skills like in Soul Shield. It was almost like looking at a player's profile, not some random NPC. That's when he figured out this wasn't just any regular undead, it was one that could actually level up and get stronger. He started thinking maybe this was what made the Phantom class so different. This part wasn't in the skills info, so he went over to check out the magic circle himself. He scrolled through the list and suddenly spotted a quest called the Avenger. There wasn't any info on what it was about or what he'd get for finishing it, which just made him more curious. He couldn't believe there was a whole quest system in the continent of. The idea that players had to hunt for secret stuff and finish it just threw him off. He kept thinking about how wild it was that a hidden quest was actually tucked away inside the magic circle. He remembered beating the mage and seeing that quest complete pop up on his screen, so he figured came to life because he had the Hand of Death class, Phantom, and that quest chilling right inside his skill circle. Right now was just this weird monster eating up all his mana and stealing XP, basically dead weight. Still, he had this gut feeling that one day would actually come through for him. He sees growth as looking ahead, not just staying stuck on what's happening right now. He snapped back to the test arena, realizing the supervisor was watching him, probably wondering why he looked so locked in. He replied quick with his answer that he wanted to pass the test and join the guild for real, hoping to be the branch manager one day. The supervisor just laughed, saying with how fast he was leveling up, that dream could actually happen. He snapped back to reality, realizing there were 3 guys in the running today, but only one was actually going to make the cut. The supervisor told him this was it, the last challenge before he could officially join and earn his spot as a 5th grade assassin. He read out the names and finally put it out there. The deal was simple. Whoever actually pulls off the hit and takes out the target gets to join the guild for real. That was the only way in. As soon as the test was about to kick off, everyone got ready to go. The supervisor started off by wanting to know who the target was. Lynn let him know his name's Alok. He's 47 and runs a pretty solid shop as a merchant. She pointed out how the target never goes anywhere without backup. 3 mercenaries always stick close. 2 of them are bronze rank warriors, basically tough guys you don't want to mess with, and the last one is a silver rank mage, which means he's got some serious magic up his sleeve. Stepped in, mentioning that people have been saying he's got a new girl lately, and sneaks into her room every night. He said that when he was there, not even mercenaries went near the spot. The instructor gave the trainee some props, saying he only dropped the target's name, but she still did her homework. She checked out the guard situation and managed to dodge them, which showed she knew what she was doing. He caught him off guard by suddenly asking how he could be sure the target would actually head to the mistress's room today since the test was happening. Got stuck for a second, stumbling over his words. The instructor turned up the heat, wanting to know if the trainees could handle those guards if the target baited on seeing the mistress. She paused for a sec, not sure what to say. The instructor said that's why the guild always gets their info straight. Then he turned and headed over to talk with the final trainee. The instructor looked at him and wanted him to tell everyone what he found out. He shot back with zero emotion, just wondering if he really had to do that at all. Nobody saw that coming, not the instructor or the trainees. Everyone just froze for a second, caught off guard by what happened. He explained that teaming up wouldn't really help since only one person could actually win and join the guild for real. To him, this whole thing was more like a solo test, so he didn't see the point in giving away what he knew. Pushed back hard, wanting to know if they were actually on the same side since they'd let him in on their secrets. Got a little flustered, but admitted they were basically teammates after all. He told her he honestly couldn't recall anything about teamwork back when they were training together. The instructor backed him up, showing everyone he was right. He told the trainees this was just a test, so they could use their own skills if they wanted. But what really mattered was getting through by using what they picked up during training. The instructor kept it real with himself, thinking about how being an assassin means you gotta drop people or use them when it suits you. Deep down, he knew his answer got right to the core of what being an assassin is all about. When the instructor checked if N had anything left to add, both just shook their heads, basically saying they were good. The instructor told everyone that starting now, they could go after the target however they wanted. He took off right away, and the instructor could already tell he had potential. He thought back to an earlier moment, when someone had looked at the whole idea of taking out that kid and clearly wasn't cool with it. Sapphire broke it down for everyone. 4 fourth-rank guys and 3 third-rank ones were getting sent out for this job. They had just 3 days to handle things inside Benton's borders. If they pulled it off, they'd score 100 gold. He had to sign up with the branch in Benton as a special grade trainee. The instructor thought 3 days was way too long, basically laughing it off. He told the others he'd track the guy down in just 10 minutes, no matter what hiding spot he picked. Later on, the instructor had to own up and say he totally messed up. Turns out, the kid's traps were actually legit. Sapphire kept her word and let him know that his training was starting right then. Back in the present, the instructor knew that making it as a real assassin was no joke. The target for this test wasn't just tough. He'd been handpicked by the branch manager and was known as the hardest one yet. As he ran, he couldn't shake the thought that he might be right where everything begins. Busted in, shattered the window, and took out both the magic alarm and all the tech stuff, all in one move. Figured he'd made it in without getting caught dodging the mercenaries, but then he saw way more of them than he expected and froze for a second. Out of nowhere, people started yelling about an intruder. The guard spotted where he went and instantly pointed that way, making sure everyone knew not to let him get away. Watched everything go down, thinking he was kind of clueless, but even she had to admit that because of him, things were finally looking up for her. She figured that even if nobody had found her, she would found a way to get noticed anyway, just so she could pull off a distraction. She figured out that ALOC, the guy who somehow kept dodging every hit sent his way, always ended up hiding out at the same spot. This hideout was actually his main wife's room. Inside the room, his wife just lost it at him. She was totally done. First, he brought in a concubine, and now he had assassins showing up. She couldn't handle any of it anymore. He tried to chill her out, calling her honey and saying he didn't do anything wrong. He kept telling her the assassins showing up wasn't on him and that the room was totally safe. Could tell right away that security had leveled up. There were way more guards posted around than last time. She noticed that the mercenaries guarding the target had already sprinted over to him, so now there were just 5 regular soldiers left that she could pick up on. She figured going straight at it was worth a shot. He freaked out and yelled at his wife, totally stressing about what she was holding since it was actually dangerous. He wanted her to drop it right away. She finally faced him and let him know she'd been holding back, thinking about all the stuff he used to say when things were good between them. She finally said she couldn't take it anymore. She called him out for hitting up her family for cash again, saying it was for his business, but she wasn't buying it this time. She let him know she'd figured out he spent her family's money to get something for his side chick. She went after him while he was freaking out, his screams echoing as she closed in. The knife, still covered in blood, dropped onto the floor. She just froze, totally stuck on what she'd done, then suddenly let out a loud scream that echoed through the whole place. One of the guards rushed in, looking stressed and trying to figure out what just went down. Noticed the mission target was already taken out by his own wife, so now she was just stuck wondering if that meant she actually finished the job or if she totally missed the mark. She started wondering what was up with and why he still hadn't shown up. She realized the request didn't go through. She figured out that the main wife was the one who took out the target, not them. Shot him a suspicious look, wondering how he managed to show up before she did. She actually started to wonder if he ever went to the mansion with the group at all. Showed up breathing hard, letting everyone know he made it back all right. He told them the mercenaries randomly turned on each other, so he barely managed to slip out while they were busy. The instructor called time on the test and clapped his hands. He let everyone know the assassination attempt actually worked out, it wasn't a fail. He nodded making it clear he got the job done and it was all thanks to him. The trainees couldn't believe what just happened. They all started yelling, confused about how anyone could call that a win. Everyone could tell right away that was gone, and his main wife was there, covered in blood. The supervisor straight up told everyone that it was all his fault, and you could tell the whole crowd was caught off guard. The supervisor broke it down, admitting he'd basically set everything up and pushed things so the wife ended up taking him out herself. The other trainees couldn't believe what just happened. The supervisor said he set everything up so the wife would be the one to finish the job. When someone wanted to know why he did it, he started to break it down. Nobody thought he'd reply any other way than acting all full of himself. He caught everyone off guard when he decided to just lay it all out and tell them what was really going on. He explained that the answer came from taking advantage of whatever was going on between the two of them. His coworkers started thinking maybe he took advantage of the guy's family problems, or maybe he somehow got inside info from the branch manager. He shook his head, saying he only found out who the target was when everyone else did. Still, the name clicked for him. Dude was a big shot in the liquor game. That pretty much proved the info about the guards in the mistress's room was legit. Nobody saw it coming, but he'd already done all the homework on those details before anyone else even started. While everyone else was busy talking about how to pull it off, he was out there making moves, putting his plan into action like he'd been ready the whole time. Nobody saw that coming, and the whole room just froze for a second. He started thinking about how he managed to wrap up the investigation before the exam, even though he had no clue who the target was. He made it clear that he didn't just look into ALOC. He let it slip that he'd already stacked up dirt on every big name in the city who might end up on a hit list. Since he wrapped up his 2-month training in just a month, he used the extra time to hang around merchants who always knew what was up and pulled in all the gossip before anyone else even started looking. He spent the last bit of time setting up plans to take out anyone, no matter who they were, so he could react instantly if he needed to. The trainees figured out he didn't just chill after the test. He actually went through the whole book before anyone else even started. While he was digging around, he found out that someone really held a grudge against ALOC, and it turned out to be his own wife, Kelly. He reached out to the wife, who was really stressed out thanks to her husband pushing her to the edge. He just threw out an idea like it was nothing, told her she should hire an assassination guild. The husband kept acting like his wife didn't even exist, always showing up with other women and spending money that came from her family. It got under her skin so bad that she started to straight up hate him, to the point where she thought about getting rid of him. At first, though, she didn't really want him dead. He let her know that as long as she brought in more mercenaries and tightened up security, he'd be alright, just dealing with some nerves. He figured that once he dipped out, he'd end up hiding in the safest spot he could think of, the room his wife always used. He told her to make it look like all that chaos was actually a setup by the mistress, who was secretly seeing someone behind everyone's back. She hoped the husband would snap out of it and come back to her. She was drinking way too much and honestly not in a good place, so when she heard the story, she bought it right away. If things had just ended there, everything would gone the way his wife wanted. But right before the assassination kicked off, he dropped one more key detail that changed everything. He let her know that all the cash was spending on his side chick, and her gifts actually came straight from her own family, and had just told everyone it was for the business. From the start, the instructor picked up on it. Even during the exam, everyone just did whatever this guy wanted. Everyone could see that he totally set up, making it look like was hooking up with the mistress, at least from the wife's point of view. But the supervisor was still stuck on one thing. Even if a regular woman is super mad, it's just hard to believe she'd actually go that far and stab her husband to death like that. Let them know he stepped in a bit to help out the wife. He poured some chemicals into the bottle of liquor that just got dropped off at the house. He slipped the stuff into the water the mercenaries were drinking, making sure nobody else would get hurt. The timing worked out way better than he expected. When someone wanted to know what kind of chemical he used, he was ready with an answer. He broke it down, saying the stuff messes with your head for a bit and gets people heated way too fast. That's when everyone started to get it. The reason the mercenaries started scrapping with each other was because that dose had them all tripped out. He admitted he never really got the whole teamwork thing, but he just couldn't stand the thought of his crew or guild buddies not making it out alive. Didn't see that coming, and his face went red right away after hearing those words. The supervisor broke down what went down. Things played out just like he expected. Once the drug kicked in and the secret got out, Kelly lost it and ended up killing her husband. The supervisor pointed out that you don't always have to be the one holding the weapon to take someone out, then gave him props for passing the test. Pointed out they could grab the commission fee and even score a little extra from her. She tried to make sense of it all. Even if she'd become a killer, the facts were still clear. A group had busted in, but only she and the others knew she was the one who took out her husband, not those guys. She figured she'd have to make his death look like the killers did it, even if it meant dropping extra cash. The supervisor could tell deep down that this guy wasn't just some random. He was on a whole different level. From the way he dealt with things, thinking like an assassin, it was clear he was on another level. The other trainees saw how good he was and pretty much gave up on first place, aiming for second instead. The supervisor told the rest of the trainees to head back to the guild, but he held him back, wanting a quick talk. While they were racing across the rooftops, the supervisor looked over and wondered if he actually got what he just pulled off. He thought about how that woman has to deal with the fact that she killed her own husband, and asked if he could even picture what it's like for a regular person to suddenly become someone's killer. He told him straight up, their guild trains people to be serious fighters, not mindless beasts. He used to think she was just a regular girl, nothing special, until he found out why kept bringing in other women. He let the supervisor know that every woman the husband brought around ended up getting taken out by Kelly. On top of that, behind the whole liquor business, the husband was actually running drugs, loan sharking, and illegal gambling. Because of him, a ton of people had their lives completely wrecked. He laid it out she got rid of these women by using her family's power, making sure she never got her hands dirty. The husband was over it but still kept bringing in more side chicks, even though he knew they'd be gone right away. He said her family made it look like the victims just went missing, not dead, so their families kept searching, but they couldn't do anything against the big names running the show. He explained that all this stuff just came up while they were looking into things. Even if this was just a test, it was still straight up an order to take someone out. The guild only scores the full payout if actually dies, no matter what the wife really wants. He gave this cold smile like he was totally unfazed. For him, being an assassin was just about getting the job done. He never cared if the target actually deserved it or what the client's deal was. He started thinking about whether having a conscience during an assassination actually makes it any less of a murder. He couldn't decide if they should care more about why they do it or how they do it, especially when cash is the main reason they pull the trigger. He noticed she never actually said she didn't want to kill her husband herself. She planned on using that assassination request and they just went through with it. Now it's obvious there's an assassin behind's death, even though she's stuck with the fact that she's the one who pulled it off. That's a weight she's got to carry for good. The supervisor stared at him, totally caught off guard, trying to figure out if he was really saying that killers like them didn't even have room for a conscience. He stood out in the sun, letting Mr. Dons know that if he wanted to hold on to who he was, he'd have to level up and get strong enough to flip the whole system from the ground up. He wrapped up his speech, basically saying that people don't really care about their conscience anymore when they're just following orders. He let Dons know that as long as he was still working with the Assassination Guild, everything would stay the same. Later on, he couldn't help but smile when Sapphire came over to congratulate him for passing the test. He finally got accepted as a real member of, and they ranked him as a grade 5 assassin. Right then, system pop-ups showed up in front of his eyes, letting him know he'd cleared the mission, leveled up, and even nailed a bonus mission. His phone buzzed with updates, showing he'd earned some respect from an instructor. Dons now expected more from him too, so he picked up extra experience points because of it. She told him that now that he was a grade 5 assassin, he could start taking on real jobs. If he ever wanted to rank up, he just had to hit the requirements. She threw in a little sarcasm though, making it clear she didn't actually expect him to go for a promotion right away. He cut her off and ran through the rules for getting promoted. Just finish one job that pays at least 30 gold coins. After reading the rules about finishing 10 level 5 missions or getting a from a branch manager or a grade 3 assassin, he couldn't help but toss out some sarcasm, wondering if these were really the ways to get promoted. She double-checked that everything was set right, so he went straight to the point and wanted to know how much cash was on the table for taking out the target. Everyone just froze, totally stunned, and even one of the assassins started wondering what this kid was up to. He asked again how much it was. She told him the upfront cost was 10 gold coins, and he'd get another 10 when the job was finished. She shot him a look that said it all, then mentioned there were 10 more gold coins he got from Kelly, basically his payment for keeping quiet about her taking out her husband. Instructor Dons caught on to what was trying to do, and he just froze for a second. He straight up let everyone know he was the guy who handled the whole job, got it done, and even scored some extra cash for it. He wanted to know if the first step for promotion, finishing a job worth over 30 gold coins, was already done. Sapphire's eyes lit up with anger. He stood there totally confident, letting everyone know he was a grade 5 assassin and straight up asking to be bumped up to grade 4. The other assassins in the hall started talking behind his back, clearly not impressed. Sapphire just watched him, thinking he was way too full of himself. She realized he'd done some impressive stuff, but the way she called him out made it clear. She wondered if he was acting like he was better than everyone else. She let him know that the group runs on strict rules, and in their world nobody sees assassins as official until they hit grade 4 or higher. She explained how everyone levels up their skills, gets checked out by the squad, and honestly feels proud when they finally hit grade 4. They started calling him out, saying he didn't care about anything they'd done. He really wasn't interested in her speech and just wanted to know if he was getting promoted or not. She had to admit he hit the requirements, even if it wasn't flawless. Still, she let him know acting like that would make everyone start to hate on him. She decided to brush off what he said, acting like she didn't even hear it. Trying to chill things out, she mentioned that maybe he was just tired from their first mission. He stood his ground and made it clear he wasn't pulling his promotion request. She totally lost it and started yelling at him, letting him know that if he was planning to stick around, he better figure out how to act right. Right when things started to get real, Instructor stepped up. He called the branch manager and asked if he could jump in as the test supervisor. She let him go for it, so he caught everyone off guard by saying he was totally ready to jump straight into the grade 4 promotion test. Dons made it clear he didn't think he was better than anyone else. He just brought the main thing that mattered most in this test. She wanted to know what really mattered most. The instructor made it clear this wasn't about strategy or coming up with some game plan. It was all about raw athletic skill. He even called out how his whole assassination style really just comes down to how strong and fast he is. Everyone else said he pulled off his last mission because he came up with some smart moves. The instructor let him know that moving up to grade 4 wasn't just tough, it was basically impossible unless he was insanely strong. They saw it as a way to see what he was really made of, or maybe just to remind him how tough things could get. Most of the people there backed up what the instructor said, pointing out how he got away from them during the chase game earlier by setting up a bunch of traps. She decided to let him take the promotion test, but let him know straight up, it's the kind of test where even the top assassins could lose it all. She looked right at him, hit him with a confident grin, and basically let him know it was go time. Was he ready or what? He reached out and shook her hand, showing he was totally ready to go. Later that night, inside the tavern, the instructor pointed out that his actions were just way too reckless. Figured he was acting weird because he probably wanted something, and was just wondering if he had any kind of plan. While they waited for their drinks, she let him know the grade 4 test wasn't happening anytime soon, probably not for another month or two. The instructor said he could help train while they figured out who he'd go up against for the test, but turned him down. He just wanted to chill and rest up instead. The instructor didn't expect him to talk about taking a break. When he said he wanted to step back from the guild for a bit, the instructor started thinking if leaving the branch was even an option now that he was officially in. The instructor said it was all good, so he let him know he'd be back before the test. He also mentioned he'd swing by the branch to see if there were any updates about the test. Dons wanted to know if he was actually planning to dip from the guild. He got this mysterious grin on his face, and the instructor just sighed, basically giving up and telling him to do whatever he wanted. She told the others to chill and enjoy their drinks, but made sure to tell the barmaid not to give the kid any alcohol. Dons let know that this chill time wouldn't last. Once he hit grade 4, he'd be busy all the time, always taking on requests. Most of the targets were actually branch leaders, so getting any real downtime was basically impossible. He realized he had to dip before things went south. He pulled up to this wild, rough mountain spot everyone called the Dark Zone, or sometimes just the Land of Death. He spotted a carriage rolling through, surrounded by a bunch of knights on guard. A knight spotted someone just chilling by the side of the road. Under the cloak, it turned out to be him all along. The knight spotted him and wanted to know who he really was. He said his leg was messed up and asked the group to help him get to the next village. He told them he couldn't make it through the night on his own and had just been waiting around, hoping someone would show up. The pink-haired knight looked at the kid and honestly thought he had guts. He yelled at him for getting in the way of a noble's carriage, making it clear that if they'd been on some serious business, the guy wouldn't have made it out alive. He just shrugged and explained that the horses sounded chill, not like they were rushing anywhere. He figured if these guys were actually on some important mission, they would use the main road instead of sneaking around this random side path. The knight just froze, caught off guard by how the boy figured things out. He kept begging, hoping they'd just help him out this one time, like doing a good deed for a kid who really needed it. The noble guy riding in the carriage suddenly switched up and told Knight Kennel to bring the kid inside. Kennel really wasn't having it, so the noble came up with a different idea, just toss him on the back of a horse instead. Hopped onto the horse right behind the commander, and honestly it caught everyone off guard. One of the guys in the squad started laughing, saying the commander actually looked right at home in that spot, and the commander just started grumbling back, clearly not having it. The commander wanted to know who the boy was, so the kid told him his name and mentioned he was from Benton. He mentioned how the girl in the carriage totally saved him, but the commander just brushed him off, saying he only got lucky running into her. Deep down, he couldn't just chalk it up to luck. He knew he had everything mapped out to make sure Lady Rose, the one rocking the Rose crest and carrying her family's legacy, got where she needed to be. He'd already scoped out the road earlier, checking for anything sketchy, and found out the Rose family's crew was rolling down the same path he was on. The Rose family kept things low-key out on the edge of just doing their thing. But when the head of the family passed away out of nowhere, the lady got kicked out and had to leave everything behind. He realized the guys leading the procession weren't actual knights. They were just special soldiers from the family, called knights only because they joined the exile. The family was just minor nobility out on the border, so this was their way of making things look official. The soldiers talked quietly, all thinking about how tough things had gotten for their young mistress lately. He was pretty sure the Rose family went down because of the Sermon family. The investigation wrapped up with the family head gone and Rose kicked out. That's where everything basically came to a stop. He kept thinking about what the Sermon family had to do with everything going on. The commander didn't look happy and questioned how sermons could be the problem, but someone else jumped in and said he'd heard something. The soldier dropped some news about the Sermon family, saying they were the ones who took out the Rose family head just to cover up their shady business. Hearing that, he was stunned. He never saw it coming. He stayed up late, just replaying what he'd heard in his head. He picked up a bunch just by talking with them. He figured out that the Rose family lost everything because of the recent beef between the Sermon and Phaeton families. Back in the day, the oldest son from the Rose family, yeah, the one from where the Phaeton family lives, ended up serving as a knight for the Sermon family over in. That's where everything between these families really started. The Sermon family's son lost his life on the border in the Dark Zone while doing his job. After that, the Sermons decided to back up the Rose family in a big way to honor him. There was this other noble family, always salty about Rose getting ahead so fast thanks to Sermon's backing. They'd been waiting for a chance, and when Sermon and Phaeton started beefing, they saw their window and made their move. After the Rose family boss got taken out, people started talking. Everyone online and offline was saying the Rose family might have been working with Sermon behind the scenes, and that Sermon probably took out the boss to keep things quiet. Everyone knew the Rose family tried to say Phaeton ordered the hit, but with Phaeton getting stronger and Sermon looking weak, nobody really listened to what they said. With their leader gone and their power basically wiped out, the Rose family packed up and started heading out too, forced into exile. Figured out that the real story was only known by the people who stuck around Rose. Kennel, who just got made a knight, and a handful of loyal crew members hadn't left her side, so they were the only ones who actually knew everything. He knew this whole exile thing was gonna be tough from the jump. Commander Kennel let his knights know the real issue was with, and the family, not the Sermons. He remembered how the family's second son kept watching the young lady, and that stuck with him. The Sermon family only managed to pull off this exile because they got the green light from the kingdom. The Sermon family had pretty much used up everything they had left just to help them out. While all this was going on, one of the soldiers raised his glass, giving a shout-out to the Sermon family. The soldier slid an extra bowl of soup over too and didn't hesitate. He took it, honestly thankful for the extra food. He pointed out that the story actually had him interested, mainly because these people were tight with the family, even though someone else thought he might find it boring. The soldier started wondering if bringing a kid like him along was a good idea, especially since he'd end up hearing all the serious stuff they talked about. The soldier, still mad, pointed out how he got in their way just to ask for help and then ended up face first in the dirt. That memory honestly cracked him up. The soldier could tell the commander looked a lot calmer after getting stuff off his chest. Even though the commander usually acts tough, the soldier knew deep down he was actually a good guy. They started talking about Miss Rose, and one of the soldiers pointed out that she had it the toughest out of everyone right now. Deep down knew they were right. He started to see that everything actually came down to what she was dealing with. He realized Kennel and the other knights, since they were still pretty new to all this, didn't really get how serious things just got. He had no clue just how wild and dangerous things were about to get once they hit the road. He remembered the family teaming up with Phaeton. There was no way they'd just stop after taking out the Rose family boss. He knew they had bigger plans. In his head, he pictured the family's second son, a guy who wasn't even 20 yet but already had 3 hits out on him at the guild. Everyone pretty much thought he was trash. He thought back to how he'd said no to those requests before since they never made any money. He always knew the person asking was straight up evil and only went after people who didn't have much. He kept a bunch of security around him, so taking him out wasn't easy. He figured out real quick that if someone like this was coming after Rose, there was no way he could just chill and hang out. While all this was going down, he picked up on some weird movement behind them. It clicked for him, someone was on their trail and they weren't alone anymore. He figured it was smarter to just stay out of their way and start setting traps to slow them down. Judging by how many of them there were and the way they moved, he knew the word had already gotten out. The soldier wanted to know why he was all dirty. He made up a story saying he tripped when he went to the bathroom. The soldier told him to chill out and just stay put. He was pretty pleased with himself, knowing he'd set up enough traps to slow down anyone chasing him. Plus, he'd already picked up all the info he needed. Once he got to the next town, he planned to cut ties with those guys for good. He figured that was just what he had to pay for the soup he'd just eaten. The next morning, he showed some appreciation for the ride, making it clear he was grateful. When they asked what a kid like him was even doing near the dark zone, things got a little more real. He said he was just a merchant passing through, looking to pick up monster parts from village and flip them for some cash over in Benton. The soldier let him know this was where they'd go their separate ways. Out of nowhere, the commander stepped in and handed him a bottle of medicine. He told him that the girl wanted him to hand over this medicine, since his leg still wasn't back to normal. Didn't see that coming and wondered if she was actually about to dip. The commander let him know that the girls were grateful, saying he basically gave them a break from all the chaos they'd been stuck in. For once, they actually got to chill for a bit. The commander said they'd be sticking around the continent from now on. At first, he acted like he'd be there if the guy ever needed backup, but then he totally switched up, basically telling him not to reach out no matter what. The soldier let him know that the commander might come off a bit harsh, but deep down he was actually a good guy. Another soldier pointed out that, orders or not, the commander would figure out a way to help that kid anyway. The soldier grinned, joking that the commander just frowned too much, while the commander started yelling at him, annoyed that he wasn't moving fast enough. He was just walking by himself on this mountain road when he suddenly caught the fast clatter of horse hooves coming up behind him. He drank the medicine and started sizing up what was going on around him. He suddenly noticed some people were after them. He quickly figured out who was chasing him, 6 guys in total, with 2 of them just regular mercenaries. 2 guys just starting out with swords. There was also a mage around, and to him that guy was just straight up annoying. The last guy had his hood pulled low trying to stay low-key, but anyone could tell he was a noble. He realized right away that the guy was the family's second son. He was tearing past on his horse, going full speed, barely slowing down as he flew by. He noticed the guys chasing him were way better than he thought, and none of his traps worked at all. He couldn't help but complain to himself, doing all this just for a bowl of soup seriously wasn't worth it. He suddenly remembered chugging that potion earlier and it hit him. It was actually some top-tier stuff, the kind that goes for over 20 silver. He couldn't get over how the lady handed out rare medicine to a kid who'd only helped her out for one night. Living on the run and still putting others first, she was built different. He kept thinking about what kind of person does that. He realized the Rose family was basically done for. No way they were getting out of this, and getting taken out was just the next thing coming. He looked at the potion and figured it was basically like getting paid up front for a job, so in his mind, things evened out. He jumped in to handle it himself and got his right-hand guy to back him up. They gave him his first real job, take out the horses without hurting anyone else. Meanwhile, the group just kept moving forward like nothing could stop them. The people chasing them were getting way too close. Kennel let everyone know he was about to go faster. He told his mistress to hang in there since they had to move faster, even though the carriage kept bouncing around. The soldiers didn't see that coming at all. The commander rushed over, clearly freaking out, and let everyone know that they were being watched. He said people with mana were already on their trail, tracking every move. Kennel yelled at his crew to step on it since the border was right there now. He told them that if the enemy showed up, they needed to grab the lady and head straight for the border, no questions asked. He let them know that after she crossed over, the family would back off, since nobody wanted to mess with the border guards on that side. Kennel decided to hang back and stall so the rest of the group could get away. His guys were all hyped up, shouting his name, even though they couldn't believe what was happening. He told them he'd see them at the border and they were totally locked in on him. He knew deep down that there was no way he could take on the family knights, they were just on another level. He didn't even earn his own title the normal way, he kind of lucked into it. Still, he stood tall, proud to call himself a knight of the Rose family. Out of nowhere, the people chasing him just froze, totally caught off guard. He jumped in front of them, yelling and demanding they back off, trying to figure out who had the guts to go after the Rose family's carriage. He warned the guys chasing them that if they didn't back off right now, he'd go savage and tear them up, no holding back. The leader just laughed at him and made it clear he was ready to mess him up. He couldn't help but wonder, kind of mocking himself, if getting called a knight actually made him worth anything now. Kennel spotted who he was up against and just froze for a second. He realized it was, and his mind started racing. Garuda's crew totally freaked out when everyone found out who their boss really was, but Garuda just shot them a wild grin. He basically reminded them they were about to wipe out everyone there except for Rose, so it didn't even matter. He told his guys to get moving right away and make sure they caught the woman before she made it to the border. Everyone was locked in and ready to go. Kennel stepped in front of them, trying to stop them, and wanted to know what they were up to. He didn't even finish talking before a loud crash slammed through the place, instantly throwing everything into chaos. He spotted a mage on the other team and could tell right away this guy was no joke, probably at least second circle level or even stronger. Told his guy to chill out and handle Kennel like they were both knights on the same side. He made it clear that no matter what went down, this was the place where he was gonna end up dead. Kennel froze when he saw who he was up against. He couldn't believe it was Commander Shiso, the old leader of the Rose Knights, standing right there. His mind was racing, trying to figure out how Shiso ended up in a spot like this. He just said straight up it was for the cash. Shiso acted like it was no big deal, saying the Rose family was done for and he had to look out for himself. Starving wasn't on his to-do list. With this sneaky grin, he basically admitted he was bored and wanted something wild to happen, so he told him to make it interesting. Both swords smashed into each other, each swing full of force and energy. Kennel was straight up yelling at his old commander, fired up and demanding to know if he'd just thrown away everything Knight stood for. Shiso just told them straight up that things weren't like they used to be. No one cared about honor anymore. Kennel took some heavy hits and his sword dropped straight to the ground. Shiso stood above him, basically telling him to give up. He mentioned all the talk going around about a war about to break out, hinting that Kennel's skills could be useful to someone else if he switched sides. He wasn't having any of that and just yelled at him to stop talking nonsense, especially since he was bleeding. Wanted Shiso to wrap things up fast and keep it moving, thinking his crew probably had in custody already. Shiso just threw out an apology like he didn't really care. He lifted his sword, ready to end the fight right there with one move. Right as he was about to strike, someone jumped in and blocked his blade. He totally lost it, yelling out and trying to figure out who just showed up out of nowhere. Showed up with this wild green glow around him that honestly looked straight up scary. Shiso glared, seriously annoyed by how bold this creature was acting. He didn't see it coming when she hit him with a quick, snappy magic move. He backed off, struggling to handle the hit, while the mage stepped in and said his shield almost broke from that blow. It was obvious now, this new guy was on a whole different level. Shiso stumbled back, barely catching his balance, blood dripping from his mouth after that hit. Stood back, watching everything go down. He couldn't help but get a little annoyed, thinking all this hassle was just because he'd wanted some soup. The view changed to Senton Rose's carriage, where the ground outside was covered with knights who'd been taken out, lying all over the place. The attackers laughed at how the guards tried to hold their ground and play hero, even though everyone could tell they were completely wiped out. He thought taking them out would just be a hassle, so he wanted them to just vanish without making a scene. The guards quickly figured out they were way outmatched, like total newbies up against pros. Before they could even react, the carriage door swung open with a loud noise, and someone called for everything to stop. Miss called out to her two guards, letting them know she appreciated everyone for sticking it out this long. But the guards started freaking out, not wanting to let her leave no matter what. She pulled out her dagger, making it clear she'd roll with the attackers, but only if they agreed to leave the other guards alone. She said she'd end it all herself if they didn't go along with her plan. He figured the boss definitely wouldn't want her gone like that. The enemy spotted the two guards and realized that she was the last person left from the Rose family. She started heading over to them, even though her guards were clearly stressing out. She put her offer out there again, ready to give herself up if it meant everyone else would be safe. Her guards weren't having it though, stepping in to stop her before she could go through with it. She let them know she'd end her own life if they didn't go through with it, since the person who hired them wouldn't be cool with anything less. One of the enemies just shut her down, saying she totally got it wrong. He explained that unless she actually made it too, nobody saw her as a noble or anyone important. In their eyes, she basically didn't even count. She didn't see that coming at all. His words totally caught her off guard. He basically let her know he wasn't taking anything she said seriously anymore. He let her know he was about to teach her what happens when you mess with a knight who can use mana. The guards totally lost it and rushed over to help her, trying to get there as fast as they could. Out of nowhere, someone sprinted in and straight up blasted the enemy in the face with a savage kick. Just stood there, froze for a second after seeing what went down. The enemy got knocked flat from that kick, hitting the ground hard. The other enemy started thinking about who this random guy was that just showed up. Showed up wearing his cloak, not too happy about having to step in. He figured he'd just pay for the potion by helping out here, but honestly he couldn't help but roast how weak the enemies were. He even joked to himself that after all this, he might still have some cash left over. He turned to the girl and pointed out that the potion and soup could count as a down payment. Then he brought up the idea of getting an assassin from to handle it. She couldn't believe what she just heard. He was actually talking about some assassin from. The enemy couldn't figure out what was doing there or why he was backing up the Rose family. She started sizing things up, figuring that if he was repping, he could actually be from Smain family. She didn't waste any time and pulled out 30 gold coins right away. He smiled, kinda impressed that she caught on so fast, but then he jumped in to set the record straight. He told her that 30 gold coins really wasn't much. It would barely cover whatever the knight in front of her needed. He said the cash wasn't nearly enough to take on the family's second son, a guy who used to run the Rose family knights, plus a third circle mage. The enemy stared at him, eyes wide, clearly trying to keep it together but looking mad underneath. He let her know she had to talk fast. If they couldn't get the commission sorted and everyone on board, he had no reason to stick around. She suddenly got hit with how serious things were. As soon as he left, the whole exile plan basically crumbled, and just like that, everything they'd worked for was gone. She knew this wasn't the moment to stress about what might happen next. Right now, keeping the Rose family safe was all that mattered to her. She looked over at him, her eyes heavy, and let him know that she'd lost it all. She wrapped up her request, really hoping he'd say yes, promising him whatever he wanted if he just helped them out. He grinned, barely holding back his excitement, and took the deal right away. At that moment, this creepy green glow started to build around him, making the whole vibe shift. Everyone watching saw the enemy clowning him for calling himself an assassin while showing his face, saying real assassins always keep it and never show who they are. He didn't hesitate, just shot straight at him, not taking his words seriously at all. To him, it was all just weak talk from someone who didn't even have real goals. He moved so fast that no one could even see it. He landed a solid hit on the enemy mage, showing everyone he wasn't messing around. He acted like a pro who never slips up, confident enough to drop his own name without even stressing. Stood there, eyes wide, taking it all in. Inside, he was hyped. This was his first real raid with the guild, and he just scored big. The whole Rose family was basically his prize now, and that win hit different. He figured it was time to level up his rep to match what he just pulled off. The enemy just wasn't having it. He got right up in his face, basically telling him to stop talking trash. This dude made it clear he wasn't some rookie with a sword who'd just roll over that easy. Out of nowhere, the other knight popped up right behind him, yelling and looking ready to take him out. He barely had time to process what just happened before an attack came at him fast, but he dodged it without breaking a sweat. The other knight yelled out for his teammate to get back on his feet, reminding him that their enemy was an assassin from Mar Tong and not someone you could just brush off. He warned him that taking on the Rose family's job job was a huge screw-up. He started flexing about how he and his brother fight together using dual swords, switching spots like it's nothing, and basically made it clear they're not to be messed with. The brothers jumped in, trying to make him wish he'd never messed with them, but he just shut them down with zero emotion, like he couldn't care less. Right then, he turned on his body control and physical acceleration skills. He darted around so fast that the enemies couldn't tell if they were seeing the real him or just some kind of magic trick, even though there was nothing for them to sense. The brothers worked hard to stay in sync, with one yelling for the other to fix the timing on their counterattack. He just looked at them and said it was already over, his voice straight up icy. They stayed confused while random attacks kept coming from out of nowhere. He was honestly confused, trying to figure out what this power was. It looked like magic, but it didn't use any mana at all. Things got messy real fast on their side, with everyone freaking out and yelling as they scrambled to get it together and hold the line. He let them know what was really going on. He'd already used his skills to make them weak, mess with what they could see, and mess up their hearing. The enemy froze up when they figured out they were up against curse skills. One guy totally lost it, calling him out for using necromancer powers. He didn't let them catch their breath and just ended it with one solid hit that took everyone out. He wanted them to understand what the Rose family went through, making sure they got a taste of the pain that everyone who lost someone felt. As the sun started going down and things finally quieted down after the fight, and the guard who made it through just stood by the carriage. Out of nowhere, everyone heard someone they knew shout out. Commander Kennel showed up alive and well, letting them know fast that everyone was safe. Commander Kennel made it back to his squad without a scratch, looked super relieved when she saw he was all right. He ran over to see, and who just stood there stunned, barely able to process that their commander actually handled the pursuers solo and pulled through when things looked rough. He brought up what he'd said earlier about meeting at the border, so his friends started telling him what went down, kind of stumbling over their words. He let them know that he didn't make it out by himself. Some random mage just showed up out of nowhere and totally saved the day. He broke it down. This random intruder showed up, took out the traitor, handled the enemy mage, and somehow even managed to capture Garuda too. Started piecing things together in her head, and now she was really thinking about that mysterious guy they ran into before. Thinking back, was locked in with his green magic circles, showing off some serious skill, and he remembered. Garuda dropped to the ground, yelling out as the pain hit him hard. Kennel spotted him and instantly knew who he was. He seemed confused, probably not expecting to see him show up like that. She let him know he wasn't just some random guy, he was actually an assassin from the well-known guild. Kennel didn't see that coming, and it really caught him off guard. Now he finally got why the mage with him went down so fast. The assassin really knew what he was doing. Garuda realized who he was up against and totally panicked. He started throwing out offers, saying he'd pay double, then even triple what the other guys promised, just trying to save himself. He made fun of her, saying that the sneaky Rose they sent over played some games, kind of like House Rule only cares about the client's gold, not about who they actually are. Cut him off, calling him out for being annoying. He wasn't about to let anyone treat him like some throwaway hitman. He took the shot, ending the guy's life on the spot. He looked straight at Rose, his eyes giving off that cold warning vibe, and let her know he hated being treated like he was just some random hitman. He checked if she actually understood what kind of reward she'd offered, making it clear with a serious vibe that the guild never just lets it slide when someone tries to skip out on paying up. He realized she really knew what the assassination guild was all about and understood their rep. She said yes, but her voice was shaky and you could tell she was nervous. He eased up a bit, letting them know he wasn't planning to take the money right now since he got what the family was going through. He told her straight up that if she wanted the 30 gold the guild promised, she'd have to put in an official request. For the rest of the deal, he said a handshake was enough, as long as nobody else found out about it. She gave a small nod, not really into it, but he told everyone to get it together so they could keep moving. He let them know they were good now and nobody else was coming after them. He promised he'd take care of the through once they left. He told them that if any border guards started asking questions, they should just say they got jumped by bandits, since no one would question that. The guards started noticing how he handled things, way more ruthless than before, and honestly it left everyone a little stunned. They showed they were all in on his plan, pretty much respecting how spot-on he always was. He was just about to head out when Kennel called out, like he wanted to get something off his chest. He just gave a mysterious grin and dipped out of sight in a flash, leaving a cloud of green smoke hanging in the air. Just froze, staring at the spot where the guy vanished. He couldn't believe he was actually gone, and it finally hit him. The dude had to be an assassin from. Kennel could tell right away that this wasn't the end of it. There was something even bigger going on. He ran the battle back in his head, realizing that the thing brought out was way more than some regular undead. Even though it hadn't been long, he could tell right away that the creature understood and spoke human words without any problem. It took down Shiso and the mage at nearly the same time, moving way faster than anyone expected. He realized something wild. The person controlling an undead that strong had to be way more than just some random assassin.
Lately, I've had a strong addiction to watching manhwa and manga recap videos. Every single day, I find myself binging one after another, losing hours and days doing absolutely nothing productive. And honestly, it's getting out of hand. So, maybe we can make these viral videos too. I mean, look at the views, the growth, the community these creators are building. It looks simple, right? But that's a trap. You go down this endless rabbit hole, spending money, losing sleep, hiring editors and writers from Fiverr and Upwork, and still feel like you've been robbed. Because don't forget how emotional the YouTube algorithm can be with making videos go viral. It's unpredictable, especially when the market's saturated, competition's relentless, and somehow other creators are dropping 10-hour videos daily while you're stuck trying to finish one. That's when I realized something had to change. So, I built the solution, the Webtoon Narrative Suite, a complete one-click system that handles everything from cropping, script narration, text-to-speech, image processing, and full video generation in one smooth process. Save money, reduce hours of work, and have a tool that only gives you straight results. Click on the link down below and experience it for yourself. And if you want even more tools to supercharge your YouTube recap journey, visit my Ko-Fi and Patreon pages where I drop weekly new tools designed to keep you ahead as AI continues to steal our jobs. So tap in now before you get left behind.